And a very pleasant good morning to everyone. I am Biff Kensington, and this is the Queen City Express podcast. It is post WrestleMania week here at the QCE. I am joined, as always, by my co-host Ryan Cyo. Ryan, how you doing, good buddy?
Pretty tired from that car drive yesterday. How are you handling it?
I'm definitely feeling my age. It was quite the trip. Definitely not looking forward to making that drive ever again, but definitely love the experience down in New Orleans. Just a beautiful day today here in Charlotte. That's about the only thing that I can say nice about this dump that we live in. Complete trash compared to New Orleans. I think this is the first time that we ever took a trip, um, and was actually depressed that it was over. So, what can you say about it? It's New Orleans. It's great. Looking forward to going back one day. This is our post WrestleMania show. It is going to be looking at not only Takeover, we'll also be looking at WrestleMania, the live experience from the Superdome. We'll be giving our thoughts on New Orleans as a host city for WrestleMania. We'll also be trash talking the Superdome itself. And looking forward to some of the call ups that were made official this week, what we think may happen next week during the Superstar Shakeup. It's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan. Post WrestleMania is always exciting moving forward, kind of get an idea of where the company is going. So we have a lot to talk about today. But Ryan, first I got to ask you, if you had to do it over, what would be the number one thing to do in New Orleans? What is your top recommendation for people that are thinking about going to the Big Easy?
Top recommendation, really just go around the city. Take your time, have plenty of time to go around it, and just enjoy the atmosphere that the city has. Go down Magazine Street, go down Bourbon Street, go through the French Quarter. Just go in, take it easy, and enjoy it.
So you're saying take it easy in the Big Easy. That's your number
Yeah,
one
that's
recommendation.
that's pretty much gonna be the recommendation for you.
You know, it's really funny. I was sitting there. You know, we live here in Charlotte, and so there's this certain, I don't know, it's hard to explain. There's a certain expectation of the people that live in the Bible Belt of the Southeast. There's a reputation for people being very nice, very warm, and kind-hearted. I gotta be honest with you. The people in Charlotte are jerks compared to the people that we met in New Orleans. I was absolutely stunned at just how nice the people were in the city. And that really started from the moment we arrived. We rented a property not too awful far from Magazine Street, if you're familiar with New Orleans. And the owner of the property pretty much made sure to check up on us every single day. Now, whether she was afraid we were going to destroy the house or something, I don't know. But she made it a point to take us around the city, showed us some of the local eats. My God, the food in New Orleans is just absolutely fantastic. If you're a foodie, if you like good cuisine, New Orleans is the place to be. It's just absolutely incredible food. You know, we have, corner stores, little grills and gas stations here, but they are trash compared to some of the places in New Orleans. Absolutely some of the best food ever had. New Orleans is rich in history. If you love history, New Orleans is the place to be. Just going through the French Quarter, I don't think we actually went to Bourbon Street once. I think we crossed over it. We were down near Jackson Park most of the time, near Cafe du Monde and Cafe Beignet, down by the waterfront there. Just absolute fantastic weather all week. It's a beautiful time of year to go in early spring. If you're looking for a place to vacation, New Orleans is the place to be. And really, as an experience for WrestleMania week, it was exceptional. A lot of fans all week long while we were down there. You could see wrestling shirts all up and down Canal Street. People excited for the show. Cannot say enough bad things about the traffic, though. New Orleans is not an easy town to get around, especially with all the one-way streets. The road quality is garbage. It feels like you're going off-roading, especially when you get off the interstates. Some of those side roads are pretty rough trying to navigate down to the French Quarter. So if you do end up visiting New Orleans, be aware of that. It is not easy to get around. You really need to be in good shape, do a lot of walking. I did more walking in this trip than I've probably done in the last year combined. But really, Ryan, as we look back on the experience, I don't think we could have chosen a better location to have our very first WrestleMania.
I would probably agree with you, all things considered, especially where the next one's going to be. I'd much rather be in New Orleans than New Jersey or New York, so I think it was pretty good all around. I mean, I went for WrestleMania and Takeover, but I ended up just enjoying the city that much more.
Yeah, it was a great time, a great experience. I would heartily recommend going if you've never been. I think anyone that's a wrestling fan, WrestleMania kind of represents, the crowning achievement of fandom, really. You want to say that you've been to a Mania, and you especially want to say that you've been to, the full experience, whether that's going to Access, the Hall of Fame, all of the other shows going on during the week. WrestleMania week really, it's pretty much the biggest week of the year in the wrestling industry. And that's no disrespect to New Japan and their January 4th show, but WrestleMania is the top of the line. Everybody's in town for it, and it's just really an incredible experience all around. There were quite a few different incidents going on. I wouldn't call them events so much as incidents in New Orleans. Matt Hardy apparently shut down Bourbon Street. Elias was performing live at one point. One of our traveling companions in our group actually saw Rusev walking down the street, so that was an experience. And allegedly, Donald Trump, actually an impersonator, of course, but Donald Trump impersonator taking pictures at the Superdome while we were trying to get in and get everything squared away. So it just gives you a small taste of how crazy this whole experience was. People walking around dressed up in their favorite wrestlers' apparel. It just, a complete takeover of the city, honestly. And that's actually a very cheap segue into the first big show of the weekend that we did attend. NXT TakeOver from the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans. This was a show we were looking forward to, Ryan, and it certainly delivered. 5 big matches, and all 5 matches really were quite fantastic.
Oh yeah, this was the show that I was probably looking forward to the most for the wrestling. I wanted to go to WrestleMania for the spectacle of it all, but TakeOver was all about just who was there, who was competing, and it delivered on every front.
Yeah, I would say that, the Smoothie King Center, if you've never been to New Orleans, the Smoothie King Center is right next door to the Superdome. And so the Smoothie King Center already looks, puny compared to the Superdome. The Superdome is a massive building, especially if you're coming in from the west on Claiborne. You just get an appreciation of how big this building is. You can even come in from the east on I-10. You can kind of see it peeking out behind the skyline. The Smoothie King Center, it is not very impressive looking. It doesn't look all of that nice. The Smoothie King Center was actually the better venue of the two for wrestling. A lot more intimate, a lot closer to the action. Sound was better, seat quality was better. I was quite impressed with the Smoothie King Center as a venue for the wrestling, especially compared to the Superdome, which we'll talk about in just a little while. But we got there just in time for the start of the taping. Of course, Kairi Sane was on last night. Last night's episode is what we saw before last week's TakeOver. Kairi Sane picking up a big win. We have new debuts for NXT. War Machine coming in, going to be replacing the Authors of Pain, who, of course, were called up to the main roster on Monday night. So it looks like War Machine's going to step right in, take over for them. But really, TakeOver itself, 5 matches, all 5 were tremendous in their own way. So let's get right into it. And, of course, we'll start off with the opening match of TakeOver, the ladder match for the brand new North American Championship. Adam Cole, baby. He is the new North American champion. Tell us what you thought about the match, Ryan.
I was really excited to see my first ladder match live, and it delivered on every account. It was, first off, we had great seats for it, so we could see pretty much everything that was going on. it was just fantastic. There's really no other way I can say it. Anything I can say is not going to do the match justice. If it's not my favorite match of the night, it's definitely the second favorite match of the night. I really want to go back and just watch it about 7 more times.
It was definitely a highlight of the trip. Just the experience of a ladder match, if you've never seen one in person, particularly a good one, which I think we were fortunate. We had a very good one on Saturday night. Just the quality of the competition. Adam Cole was one of 5 people who I felt had a legitimate shot of winning going into the match. Velveteen Dream, another star-making performance in a series of them. He continues to impress each time out. What can you say? Lars Sullivan, kind of a throwback to the old monster character. Killian Dane did very well in this match. Ricochet, complete star-making performance. This guy was just incredible. Couldn't ask for a better big stage debut for him. EC3 did okay. I think EC3 got overshadowed a bit by Ricochet, to be completely honest with you. But honestly, all 6 men that were in the match did a fantastic job. This match was extremely well laid out. And, of course, if you've got a chance to go back and watch it on the network, or for those of you that were watching live, Mauro Ranallo apparently just went ballistic at ringside. He's hopping up and down. Very much a fan of pro wrestling is Mauro Ranallo, and it comes through on his commentary. But we were all jumping up and down in the arena. There is one hang-up on this match, and it is very much a minor critique, but there is something to be said, I believe, about having the ladder match go first, with Adam Cole has to wrestle in the tag match later. I was actually surprised that the ladder match opened the show. I think that they did that to kind of get the crowd up, but I also think that that made it a little bit harder for the 2 matches that followed it to really stand out. But otherwise, this match was just incredible from start to finish. And, of course, Adam Cole, new North American champion. We'll see where they're going to go with that. It's quite obvious Undisputed Era is going to have a big role to play in NXT moving forward.
Oh, yeah, the Undisputed Era is definitely going to be one of the focal points coming out. I was surprised Adam Cole was the one that picked up the win. As we get to the tag match, we can explain why that's not so much a surprise now looking at it. But, yeah, I was hoping for Velveteen Dream to pick it up. He was surprisingly one of the most over people in the match. Maybe not so surprising to some, but in comparison to Ricochet and Adam Cole, he was getting some of the biggest cheers. There's nothing I can say about this match. It's just so great.
It's definitely one of the best car crash genres, match genres that we've seen from the main roster or to NXT now in the last several years. Honestly, the ladder matches, they're almost passé at this point because you get one every year in the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Now you're getting 2 with the women's Money in the Bank. Of course, you have the TLC pay-per-view, a lot of TLC matches. So, ladder matches as a whole, it's kind of old hat for longtime fans. You still appreciate the intensity of them, the difficulty of them, and, of course, the risk that the performers are taking upon themselves in them. It's very hard for these types of matches to stand out, but I truly believe this was very much a modern classic ladder match, probably the best one I've seen in the last 5 or 10 years. And that might be biased from the fact that we were actually in the building, but honestly, just an incredible performance from all 6 men. Cannot rave about that match enough. And honestly, the match that followed it wasn't that bad either. I know it was probably the least favorite match of the night, and that really is a testament to how good this takeover was. We do have another new champion in NXT. Shayna Baszler has captured the NXT Women's Championship. She forced Ember Moon unconscious to claim the title. This was a rematch from NXT TakeOver in Philadelphia. This time Baszler gets Moon. Of course, Moon is now on her way up to the main roster, so it's Shayna Baszler's ship in NXT. Tell us what you thought about the match, Ryan. Did you like it more than you did the Philadelphia match? And what are your thoughts on Shayna Baszler now leading the way in the NXT Women's division?
I did like it more than the Philadelphia match, and that mainly stems from the fact that I feel like the right person won. I still don't understand why they felt the need to draw the feud out to have the second match at this takeover. Um, it was a good match. I don't think it's as good in person. With the submissions, are a little bit harder to see what's going on unless you're looking up at the screens, which we had a good view of, so it helped a little bit. But it was still a solid match. But compared to the rest of the card, it's not going to measure up to them. Any other show, I mean, if this had been on the WrestleMania card, it would have been a great match. But it was good. Just I feel like it needed to happen on the last takeover and not this one.
Well, Ember, I really feel bad for Ember, and I've been a very strong critic of Ember Moon in NXT. I was very excited when they signed her. I knew what she could do from her work on the independent scene. So, I was looking forward to seeing what they would come up with for her. Ember is really the victim of circumstances more than anything, I think. She came in right at the tail end of one of the hottest runs of any division in the history of the NXT brand. When you have Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, Sasha, Asuka, going back a little bit further than that, Paige and her anti-diva gimmick, Emma really coming into her own there. There was an enormous wealth of talent that paved the way, and those were huge shoes for anyone to fill. And so Ember was already behind the eight ball from the very start, having to keep the quality up at such an insanely high level. She never beat the champion for the title, which always takes the new champion down a peg in my eyes. If you're going to be champion, you need to beat the champion. She never beat Asuka. And so for me, it was a very lackluster way to begin her title reign. And no sooner than she started the title reign, she ran into the buzzsaw that was Shayna Baszler. Obviously, WWE building up Shayna for future business with Ronda Rousey. So really it was unfortunate for Ember. She never really got a chance to fully spread her wings and see what she could do. I am on record. I don't like the call up Monday night. I don't think she's ready. I don't think she's going to succeed on the main roster. Too many issues right now with that character or lack thereof. But I won't take away her talent. She's very talented and she gets a reaction. And so I hope nothing but the best. I am worried it was too soon to call up. But as far as Shayna Baszler goes, she's very polarizing a figure. I look at her, she has a certain intangible quality about her that makes her interesting. I don't know if it's the gravitas that she walks around with, that bravado, or that, my shit doesn't stink type look about her. She's got the great facial expressions of a heel. Her ring work will come. Obviously, she has some grappling skill. When she's in there with the right person, she can have an entertaining match. This was a very good match. It was the weakest of the night, but compared to the matches it was surrounded by, that's not a knock on this match at all. I do look forward to seeing what she can do with the title. I think that she's going to improve each time out. I think she's going to be a very competent pro wrestler when all is said and done. And I think Kairi Sane is going to be the big challenger for her. That's going to be a rematch from the Mae Young Classic. I believe that could be the direction they're going for Brooklyn. But there's a lot of young talent coming up in NXT right now, so it's kind of a rebuilding phase for the company, for the developmental brand. But I like where they're going. Shayna Baszler, new NXT Women's Champion, very solid match, and we'll see what happens with Ember on the main roster. Speaking of main roster, and a guy that's been kind of flirting with the main roster over the last few weeks, Roddy Strong. I'm telling you right now, this guy, this might have been the shock of the night. Could have been the shock of the night for TakeOver. Roddy Strong turning heel on Pete Dunne, really coming out of nowhere, joining the Undisputed Era. We have our Dusty Classic tournament winners, and it was a team that wasn't even in the tournament to begin with, but this was also a fantastic match and really kind of got lost in the shuffle, I think. People still buzzing about the ladder match, so the women's title match and the tag title match kind of glossed over, but still a very good match in their own right.
Definitely. They were still a good match. This tag match here, it was, if it wasn't for the shock, it probably would have been still a great match, but I think the twist ending to it's really just what jumped it up a few pegs. Adam Cole was pulling the double duty in the tag match and the ladder match, and he was taken out pretty early on in the tag match for obvious reasons, so it made sense. But it was still, the storytelling was well done. Again, the crowd just lost their minds with the ending to it, and I was one of the ones there. It was just fantastically done.
Yeah, I really like the way they set this match up. Of course, this was really the last song for the Authors of Pain, who moved up on Monday night to the main roster. So it was nice for them to get kind of a nice send-off at Takeover New Orleans. Pete Dunne and Roddy Strong, it was very much an unusual hodgepodge pairing, but it was an awesome pairing. Both guys are incredible in the ring. Undisputed Era, of course, we were all concerned about how they were going to work around the injury to Bobby Fish. And now we know it's Roddy Strong going to take over for him as part of the Tag Team Champions with Kyle O'Reilly. Of course, this has been a storyline that's kind of been simmering for the last few months down in NXT. A lot of people thought Roddy could be turning sooner than he did. It was kind of a shock that he turned here. But definitely one of the shocks of the night, and really one of the most underrated matches of the night. It was wall-to-wall action, honestly. But that finish with Roddy turning on Pete and joining Undisputed Era, that really sets up some very interesting feuds going forward in NXT this spring. NXT is loaded right now. It is flush with talent. It's going to be very interesting to see how they build the tag division around the newly arrived War Machine, or War Raiders as they're called now in NXT. Of course, Sanity has not yet gotten the call up, but that should be coming soon. I would imagine they're going to SmackDown at some point in the near future. So the women's division, the tag division, all very much in a state of rebuilding. We have a lot of potential directions for the company to go over the next few months. They are building, of course, to the next takeover in Chicago, Money in the Bank weekend this coming June, I believe it is. And so, we're looking really for a lot of good stuff coming out of those two divisions. But NXT, probably more than the main roster, defined by its champion. And we have a new NXT champion as well, Aleister Black, taking the title from Andrade Cien Almas. This could have been the match of the night any other show. It was an incredible performance from Black. What can you say about Almas? He's really clicking right now. He's got it firing on all cylinders. He is ready for the main roster. He could go this week in the Superstar Shakeup. They may hold him out for a rematch. We're not going to get into any spoilers from yesterday's tapings from Full Sail. But, when you look at these two guys, what they've done in the ring, they had probably the most challenging role of the entire night. Everybody was excited about the ladder match. Everyone was excited about Gargano and Ciampa going at it in that unsanctioned match. You want the NXT Championship to have a certain gravitas. You want it to be respected. You want it to have the presence top title needs. These guys were behind the eight ball from the start, having to work around the emotion of the ladder match and Gargano and Ciampa, but I think they did a fantastic job. What are your thoughts on Black being the new NXT champion, and where do you see the title moving forward there, Ryan?
I think it's great that he's the champion. I've mentioned it, I believe, in our predictions videos, that when it comes to Aleister Black, I'm never excited for his matches when they start, but I always leave more than satisfied. It was just a solid match all around. Almas is a great worker. He needed the character work, and he's finally got that down. They told a great story in the ring, a couple of finishes, false finishes rather, that almost had me believing it was going to go the other way. Moving forward for Black, Gargano's got to come up and challenge for it. You might even see Ciampa going for it. Until Adam Cole loses that North American title, I think he's going to stay where he's at. But those are some exciting feuds to look forward to if they happen.
Yeah, I think that's really the MO for NXT moving forward right now. It's possibility. You have a lot of possibility with this roster of talent that you've assembled, and you've got more talent coming in. And I like the mix of homegrown talent. You have people like Heavy Machinery who really haven't made much of a name for themselves. outside of the NXT umbrella universe. You know, you also have your big indie stars, people from Japan, what have you. It's really a nice mix right now in NXT. The talent is phenomenal. They have, you know, some very strong people in NXT's creative. William Regal, the perfect figurehead for the brand. I like where they're going. I think this match in particular symbolizes what we've come to expect from a takeover. It was an excellent match, you know, almost a classic. I do think that it's going to be kind of forgotten compared to the matches that bookended the show. But again, you can only say it so many times. That's no disrespect to this match. It was fantastic. I love the story of the match. It was classic wrestling. The heel manager went to the well one too many times, tried to cheat to help her man win, and it backfired in the end. I think that was an excellent way to pay off, you know, Andrade's title run in NXT, really his entire heel run, I think. It's been kind of building to that moment. You know, Zelina Vega has been an incredible addition to that package. That's ready-made for the main roster. I think he's going to kill it up there. It's just going to be absolutely fantastic to see where they go with him on the main roster. I also believe, you know, that you have really in Aleister Black the kind of performer that can really be special long term. I think he has the chops really to be a credible NXT champion. There have been a lot of great NXT champions over the last couple of years. The NXT title has had just as big a pedigree as the women's title for the company. I think Aleister Black has a chance to be a truly memorable champion. Tell me, Ryan, what are you looking for out of Aleister Black moving forward? Do you have a potential challenger that you would like to see him wrestle with? Or honestly, do you see him being ready for a call-up sooner rather than later? Maybe he loses the title in Chicago or Brooklyn and heads straight up.
I feel like NXT could deal with having more of a long-reigning champion for the time being, and a lot of the people that I'm kind of envisioning him going up against more recently are probably a little bit more due for a call-up. So I would like to see Aleister Black hold the title for a while. The way his character is, he's more of that neutral kind of character. He can kind of delve a little bit into being heel if he needs to and go back a little bit being babyface like he did in this previous match if he needs to. So I think he'll do really well against anybody. If you match him up with Gargano, he can go a little bit more on the heel side. If you match him up with Ciampa, nobody's going to out-heel Ciampa, so people are just going to hate him to begin with. It's really, there's a lot of possibilities, as we said, and I'm just hoping that they deliver, and I don't have any reason to believe they won't.
Yeah, I think, you have a guy in Aleister Black who has the talent to be a credible champion. I think you have plenty of options in NXT in terms of challengers. Really, from top to bottom, the whole card is stacked, flush with talent. I think we have a really good run of NXT coming up for us, building up to Takeover in Chicago and to the final Takeover in Brooklyn, at least for the time being. So it's going to be a fun time to watch NXT. But really, we're looking at the main event picture in NXT right now, and you can't talk about the top of the card without two of NXT's biggest stars, and they are the main event of Takeover, biggest match of the night, one of the greatest matches I've ever seen live. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, unsanctioned match. This match was everything it needed to be and then some. I will be completely honest, I was not as into the match live and in person for the first 5 or 6 minutes. I think that was due in part to the fact that they were kind of wrestling around in the crowd. It was harder to see. When I went back and watched it on the network, it was by far a better match at the start than I gave it credit for. But, of course, once they got going in this match, it was just incredible storytelling. One of the most visceral matches I've seen on NXT or the main roster in quite some time. It was definitely a throwback to a bygone era of wrestling matches where emotion was kind of ruling the roost there. Tell us what your thoughts about this match were. Did it live up to your hype? Did it live up to your expectations? What are your thoughts on Ciampa and Gargano?
Honestly, it lived up to them, and it was probably without a doubt, my favorite match of the weekend. Earlier, I was considering the tag title match with the ladder match to be up there, and it was, now that thinking back on it, Gargano Ciampa was just hands down the match of the weekend. They went brutal on each other. There wasn't any bleeding, which could have added to it in some situations, but at the same time, I don't believe it was necessary. But I think that just the brutality of the match, you said you had a little trouble getting into it, and I want to believe it was near the beginning of the match, but just as soon as Gargano got Ciampa in the corner and started stomping him, and the ref didn't break it up because it was an unsanctioned match, and then the crowd just went ballistic. It just was great from that point forward for me. And there was a lot of spots that were painful. I mean, I don't know about you, but a power bomb from the outside onto exposed concrete, I don't know how he's walking after that.
The greatest use of the "You Deserve It" chant that I've ever seen. It's just absolutely incredible. It was a great match. It was everything that I had hoped it would be. It was an emotional match, and of course, Johnny Gargano getting the big win. Just absolute fantastic. I do believe that we have not seen the last of these two in the ring. I don't think this ends their feud at all. I think their feud is just really getting started. And I think that's going to be something really awesome to watch moving forward in NXT. The match was a little bit on the long side. I will grant you, it was definitely on the long side just a wee little bit. But at the same time, it was quite the showcase. It was quite the emotional match. It really put you through the ringer as a fan. Couple of false finishes that nearly had me jumping out of my seat. I thought the move off the top there, that the lung blower type maneuver, that was going to be it. I was hoping that Gargano would get the win. I know you predicted Tommaso Ciampa winning before I predicted Gargano, and I'm happy to say that you were wrong on that one. Sorry about that, Ryan. But
I'm just as happy. It's just because I predicted somebody to win doesn't mean that's who I wanted to win.
Yeah, I think that, Gargano winning, this was really great. It was, the right call to make. It was the feel-good moment of the show. It was a nice way to end the show, really. It was just such an incredible experience, really, from start to finish. This was, the perfect way to send everybody home happy. Just an incredible performance from all involved. It was a great show. Very much enjoyed Takeover. It was definitely the show of the weekend as far as I'm concerned. And that's not just, from the perspective of the quality of the wrestling. It was the perfect length. We were in the building by about 6 and we were out by about 11. So, it's a long show, but it was a fun show. It never felt like it drug much. It was moving right along, a very leisurely pace. Everything just kind of came together in the right way. Everything flowed nicely. The matches were fantastic. The quality never dropped from the opening bell to the closing bell. The big emotional send-off, a lot of big moments. NXT TakeOver, they have a habit of being incredible shows, and this was no different. A very, very nice show, and a really good way to start our WrestleMania weekend experience. This was the first of 2 shows that we attended. We did not go to Access. This was as much a trip to New Orleans as it was a trip to see the wrestling. And so have no real regrets about not getting to go to Access. There was just so much to see and do in New Orleans that there really wasn't any time. I will say this, though. And Ryan, I'm going to get you to weigh in on this here in a moment. And by the way, Ryan, check your Facebook Messenger for me. I have a special request of you there while we're talking here. But I will get your opinion on this. And I have a very, very pointed perspective on this upcoming subject. And that is the Superdome freaking sucks as a wrestling venue. And I know that a lot of people were looking forward to WrestleMania being back in New Orleans. Everybody remembers WrestleMania 30. It was one of the best WrestleManias they've done in a long time. So I think people were excited about WrestleMania coming back to New Orleans. This was our first time in the Superdome, and I can tell you right now, I was not impressed whatsoever. As visually appealing as the building is to the outside, it is an absolute dump on the inside. What was your experience personally in the Superdome, and what could you kind of tell the listeners about how trashy this place really was? And remember, this is not your hatred of the Saints talking. This is just purely unbiased perspective on the Superdome itself.
I might not tear it apart as much as you are. I was severely disappointed with the Superdome itself. You expect it to be a little better. Our seats, we were basically one level up, and when we got the seats, there was no talk of it being any kind of obstructed viewing or anything like that. But we couldn't see most of the stage. We couldn't hear any audio. If people were trying to talk on a microphone, it was just not happening. Music was muffled at best. There was some fireworks that went off, and we didn't even know they went off until I looked up at the screen that was above us, and I could see those fireworks. The screens over the ring, we couldn't see them, and we were sitting pretty far away from the ring itself, so everything was kind of hard to make out. But the experience of being at WrestleMania, just to say that I was there, is great. I spent a good portion of the night standing in lines trying to get around to merch tables, and eventually finding out that what I needed was at the team store that they had for setup. It wasn't my ideal setup for the night. I'll put it that way.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I nearly had a damn heart attack during the show. I wasn't paying attention. I forget what I was doing at the time, but Roman Reigns had some pyro go off, and I could not really get a good perspective of this coming. So I was kind of scared out of my boots a little bit there. It was not the best of locations. It really wasn't a good venue. As big as this building is, you would think that it's meant for a lot of people, but honestly, this is not a very good venue for that many people. I don't even know how they do it for football on the regular. So, cannot say enough nice things about New Orleans, but cannot say enough bad things about the Superdome. Just a really bad experience. And that kind of ties into the overall WrestleMania experience. It is very much a spectacle. You have to be there for the spectacle of it. But unless you have incredible seats, it is not the most comfortable way to spend 1,900 hours, which is what it felt like we were in there for the Superdome. But we're going to get into some WrestleMania talk here, and I am very excited right now to introduce a very good friend of mine. He hosts the Shooting the Breeze podcast on Saturday mornings. My good friend Taker's Minion has decided to come on and join us today. Taker, my friend, good to see you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, both you and Ryan. Ryan, it's the first time we've talked.
It is. It's nice to meet you.
I'm sure Biff has spoken very highly of me.
Oh, yes.
So we're getting into WrestleMania, are we?
Well, WrestleMania just ended about 3 hours ago. Oh, excuse me.
No kidding.
Oh, my God. Our ass was numb.
Okay, one quick thing I want to bring up is that you brought something out. You said something that I had seen more than once driving semi over the road for many years. Dead alligator.
Oh God! We were coming off we were coming over Lake Pontchartrain, and we were just coming out. And one of the people that were riding with us, this was actually kind of the great humor of the week for us. She's afraid of bridges, and she was not thinking about all the bridges we would be crossing.
Many of them. There are many of them because you are going into swamp country.
Oh, yes, very much so. The first bridge down coming into Mobile, it's like a 5-mile bridge in and of itself, and she was terrified.
Oh, you're thinking about the causeway.
Yes. She was not aware of all the bridges we would be crossing, which I felt like the worst friend in the world for not having warned her about that. But she didn't handle Lake Pontchartrain very well. But as soon as we crossed over Lake Pontchartrain, there's just a dead alligator laying on the side of the road. And you don't get dead alligators on the side of the road in North Carolina. You get possums. You may have a stray dog that gets hit. It's a different world to travel through the swampland down in the Gulf Coast. Ryan, I know that you had your own particular take on the quality of the roads. down in New Orleans. I think at one point you said it felt kind of like paved off-road roading. So it's definitely an experience driving down in New Orleans. But the wildlife in particular, it's one thing to see a dead possum on the side of the road or a dead raccoon. Seeing a dead alligator, you're in a different world down there.
Yes, you are. Ryan, I would say this. I drove a semi-tractor trailer for 12 years, and some of the worst roads in the country are in Louisiana.
I'm at the point now if I'm just wondering if there was even roads down there.
Yeah, I would agree with the off-road. You're running the Baja 1000 in Louisiana.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I mean, Arkansas is known for bad roads, but Louisiana is worse.
Well, the cuisine of New Orleans is really the draw. I don't think anyone goes there for the quality of the infrastructure. Some of those roads were god awful, especially down in the French Quarter.
Imagine delivering spices and whatnot to Zatarans when you do have to go the wrong way on a one-way street.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus. You talk about getting caught in the wrong part of town. We go in trying to find our way back, and every time we would have a turn coming up, it's a posted no left turn. We went into like the red light district of New Orleans, like the hidden red light district of New Orleans.
Oh, isn't that a fun place?
Oh, sweet baby Jesus. You talk about nerve-wracking. We think we're hardcore coming from Charlotte. We ain't got nothing on the hardcores down in New Orleans.
Nope.
So.
Oh, you missed the best part when we're trying to get to the Smoothie King Center for Takeover. We're going down one road. Oh, they got it blocked off, so we take a turn, and we end up going on a bridge that's going out of the city.
Yeah, we crossed the Mississippi River like 3 times trying to get to the Smoothie King Center, so that was not the most pleasant of experience. I might have dropped a few obscenities and freaked everyone out in the car.
A few F-bombs, Biff?
Oh, a little bit stronger than that. A few blasphemies going on in that car ride. It was, we're trying to be dropped off. We were the only 2 that wound up going to Takeover. The rest of our group decided not to go to Takeover. They were going to enjoy the time in the city that night. So we were being dropped off. Not a big fan of being dropped off at an arena anyway, especially a longer show. When the show's over, I want to get to the car and I want to go. I'm not very happy sitting around being uncomfortable in a hot, stuffy arena. I will say the Smoothie King Center was better than the Superdome by a mile.
That's what I'm gathering.
Yeah, the Smoothie King Center.
You and my stepdaughter, as well as another friend from another podcast, were all there this weekend. My stepdaughter was staying at the same motel as Goldberg.
No kidding.
Yeah. She wanted to get a picture, but he was like, no, I don't think my wife would appreciate it. And that totally sounds like him.
See, this drives me up the wall. Everybody saw somebody famous in New Orleans or was staying near someone famous except me. I'm like the only person that didn't get to see anybody famous. The closest I came was one of the performers for Shinsuke Nakamura's entrance. We were apparently staying beside them. That's
but the thing about it is that you got one thing on me that I don't have.
And that would be?
Seeing Undertaker's entrance live.
Oh my. One of my best friends that actually went with us, I have never heard him scream like a girl before. And Ryan, you can vouch for this. You know who I'm talking about in our little group. But he just went absolutely insane. That was by far one of the best parts of WrestleMania. That made the experience worth it. Let's
put it this way, Biff. If I get the opportunity to go next year and Taker's there and I get to see it, I'll probably scream like a damn girl.
I will tell you right now, I told Ryan this yesterday. I think Undertaker's going to wrestle for another 10 years. He could probably go another decade if he's doing 2 to 3 minute squash matches once a year. Even I could probably do that.
That was a great match, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was definitely one of the highlights of the show. But we are going to go ahead and get into this. And I know, Ryan, you unfortunately missed most of the pre-show because of the freaking lines at the Superdome merch stand. So I know you're not going to have a lot to add here. I know, Taker, you were doing a live stream of the show actually as it was happening, were you not? I think you had a podcast going.
I did after about, I think it was the second match of the main card, I decided to do it. So it was one of those spur of the moment things.
Okay, so you jumped in about the Charlotte Asuka match then, I guess.
Yeah, just before that.
Okay. Yeah, so, as far as the pre-show goes, I don't have a whole lot to say about this, mostly from the perspective where we were sitting. It was very hard to really make out a lot of detail about the Battle Royal when you got a massive humanity going in. I will say this. Everybody, kind of talked about the Matt Hardy-Bray Wyatt pairing, thinking that this was kind of building up to it once their feud kind of culminated. And this is the starting point, it seems, for a new tag team. Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy moving forward. This will be Bray Wyatt's official face turn, something he's needed, I feel, for a long time now. Very much looking forward to this. Matt Hardy, it's a nice tip of the cap to him for his service over the years, kind of a veteran presence. The Andre Battle Royal lost a lot of luster, I think, over the last couple of years. They really had a chance to do something special with it.
And they did.
Yeah, and I think this particular year, really was probably the best one they've done since the first one. And I think it's the most meaningful because it sets up storylines moving forward. But what are your thoughts, Taker, on the Bray Wyatt Matt Hardy tag team? This is definitely kind of an oddball pairing, but I think there's some potential here.
Well, I will say this. I was watching the pre-show, having had consumed a few adult beverages.
I'll tell you about some adult beverages later. But,
I'm sure you had your fair share of hurricanes and can't see straight for the next week. But anyway, because you know what happened to me on Tuesday. But anyway,
yes, very much so. Glad that you're on the mend, by the way. That did not sound like a very pleasant experience.
No, 10-centimeter gash on my head, requiring 10 staples. So I have something in common with Roman Reigns, but we'll get to that later.
Oh,
no, watching the Andre, it was nice to see, something different happen for a change. I mean, you heard the ee-weep-a-doo-wop, and then the lights go out, and then you hear the ee-weep-a-doo-wop, and there's Bray Wyatt, and I'm like sitting there going, uh-oh, who is he going to kill? Who is he going to take out? Based on the whole war between him and Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
I was thinking originally he was going to go for Matt.
Yeah, there was that ambiguity, yeah.
Yeah, but then to see him join Matt and help him win, because after Matt eliminated the last one, the bell rang, and I'm like, wait a minute. Bray's still in the ring. Is he not part of this? I was shocked. But to see them form a tag team, it's like, ooh, this is going to get real interesting. Real interesting.
Yeah, I think if he had attacked Matt Hardy, I almost think that would have been more frustrating than it would have been interesting at that point. Because Bray and Matt have done just about all they can do without becoming derivative of things they've already done in their feud. And I think it was good, even if it is kind of an unusual turn for most WWE viewers. You really need to be, you need to have an understanding of the Matt Hardy character, which, to be completely fair, WWE has not done the best of jobs really explaining the Woken character. You really almost have to have knowledge of match run in TNA to fully appreciate what we're getting here.
Which I do, fortunately.
Right, and so
even though the broken character and I shouldn't say the broken character, but more so TNA was a product that I didn't really care for because it was, I would say, C- at best. Its entire run.
It was very much you either like it or you hate it. There was no middle ground on Matt Hardy's TNA run. You were either the biggest fan of the world of it or you thought it was the stupidest thing ever.
I liked it. I liked the broken Hardy gimmick.
I think he really needed it. At his stage in his career, he'd gotten really stale by that point, and switching it up to this, it got a lot of eyeballs on him, and it got a lot of eyeballs on TNA that they didn't have at the time. So I think it was very necessary.
That's exactly what it did, Ryan. And I will give Matt Hardy credit. for doing something outside the box.
Yeah, definitely. That was really far outside the box. That was in a completely different continent.
That's a different store entirely. He went from Walmart to Best Buy on that one.
Well, let's put it this way. He took something from, and a lot of people are going to probably say I'm stupid to say this, but he took something that was Attitude Era-esque and got it over in a PG, quote PG era with the broken character.
That's a very interesting perspective. I actually never thought of it that way, but it is very much a throwback type to that kind of zany Attitude Era style angle, kind of really over the top.
Yeah, we really moved away from the character-based characters now. A lot of them have like their I've got a bad attitude or I just want to fight people attitude, but you don't get these. This person's just out of his mind crazy people anymore.
So. Batshit insane, basically.
Let's put it this way. He took the Nick Foley Mankind character who was thrown off the cell at Royal Rumble 98 and took it and amplified it by about 10 with the broken character. And then it's now has brought the Woken character to WWE, which some fans understand. Some are trying to go, what the hell is this? But a lot of the fans understand, hey, this is something he did before and it got over like crazy. Let's latch onto this and hang on for the ride. You're going to have a fun ride, folks.
And this is a good point as any for me to hop on the soapbox here on this very subject. Screw you, Michael Cole, for talking trash about this angle whenever it pops up. I can't stand the way.
But that's where I love Corey Graves.
Yeah, Corey putting them in his place is quite a bit of satisfaction for me. But Michael Cole, this drives me up the wall. This is not the first time he did this. If you remember, oh God, I can't remember if it's a year ago or 2 years ago now. I think it was 2 years when Enzo Amore and Big Cass debuted on the main roster the night after WrestleMania. Michael Cole went out of his way to kind of lambaste them almost and almost make fun of them. And not in the sort of joking, jovial way like these two guys are cut up. He went out of his way to make them out to be these, two goobers that you really probably are not going to get. And I hated that then. I hated Cole now talking about how stupid this all was. It's over the top. It's crazy. It's zany. It's not supposed to make sense. Not all things have to. It's going to be unique, and it's going to be a different flavor from what you're used to getting on Raw. But don't sit there and apologize for it like it's utter trash and you're embarrassed to be associated with it.
Well, we all know Michael Cole's a heel.
Michael Cole's a jackass. Let's not mince words here. He's a complete and utter tool, and he has been for the last decade.
No, not a complete and utter tool. How about a complete and utter troll?
Well, he's got Vince McMahon's hand up his ass like a puppet, so I can only blame him so far. But, Michael Cole, I make no bones about it. He's the worst lead play-by-play guy they've had in that company in a long time.
Bring back JR.
Yeah, even Jim Ross Jim Ross in 2018 is better than Michael Cole at virtually any point in his run. So, and I listened to Jim Ross doing the Strong Style Evolve show.
Oh God, please.
Yeah, so I'm still going.
To be perfectly honest, and I'm not going to lie, I feel sorry for Jim on that because he is so lost.
It's not his cup of. It's just not his wheelhouse. It's just not what he's comfortable doing. I don't think.
It's not.
It's a paycheck for him. That's really what it is. But Jim Ross in his pinky toe has more talent than Michael Cole's ever had in his body. So.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take drunk and sleeping Jim Ross over Michael Cole any day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to get that off. I'm off my soapbox now, but a hearty screw you, Michael Cole, for being a complete and utter jackass.
And you named someone that I refuse to name on my podcast.
Michael Cole?
No.
Who did I name? Wait a minute, I'm lost. Who did I name?
Enzo.
Oh.
Enzo is known as he who shall not be named. His name is worse than Voldemort, okay?
Fair enough. And I'm not saying this as an Enzo Amore fan or anything, obviously.
No, Enzo, I will say this. Enzo did all right at a point. But when he had the incident and didn't say anything to WWE and it came out without them knowing about it, that's on him, and kudos for WWE for releasing him.
Yeah, you can't get away with what he did. And that's not assigning guilt to him. I mean, look, we're not going to know the full ramifications of that whole mess until it plays out. I know the police down in Phoenix are still investigating it last I had read about it. So let the legal process play it on that perspective. But whatever the ramifications of that are, you can't go through that scenario and not tell the company you work for. That was an incredibly bad time for that to come out. It was right around Raw 25. The company is in PR overdrive spinning the show. And for this to drop right on the doorstep of Raw 25, that was just utter, and the Rumble to boot, you can't put up with that. So, yeah, no love or sympathy for Enzo. He did okay with what he was given. I personally hated his run on 205 Live. I really stopped watching the show during his run. Of course, that was the pinnacle of the characters first, which, is funny. We were just talking about how people don't really have characters much anymore, and that seemed to be the MO for 205 Live, but it was characters, and nothing else. It was just a focus on these personas, and I think, that really kind of put the cruiserweights in a bad position, especially trying to build up this show. So I wasn't a fan of Enzo.
Yeah, it did. I mean, when all of this shit, sorry people for my language.
It's okay.
When this shit broke, it all but ruined 205 Live.
Yeah. It took quite an effort to get that show back.
And I have to give WWE credit for bringing in Rockstar Spud, a.k.a. Drake Maverick, as general manager, and making 205 Live more relevant than it's ever been.
Honest to God, I thought you were about to say making 205 Live great again. And I was going to say he's definitely working with Donald Trump to keep the tanning business in business.
Mm-hmm.
So he's helping support that industry.
But he's also, whoever the writers are now on 205 Live, they're doing a fantastic job. I'm not going to say, I watched it early on and it was garbage because they were handcuffing so many of the wrestlers. And now they've turned around and made 205 Live must see. In a matter of less than 2 months after Enzo was fired, in a matter of 2 months, 60 days, folks, they made 205 must see.
It's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. The Cruiserweight title tournament itself really kind of made the show feel like a throwback to the Cruiserweight Classic.
Right, but now they need to build on it.
Exactly.
This is going to be the key. They had two great choices in the final between Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali. Two babyest of baby faces.
Yes.
And here again, belonging to the community that you and I belong to, Biff, everybody's asking, well, who's the heel? Why does there have to be a goddamn heel?
Especially in this particular match, and this is as good a segue as any to go into the Cruiserweight title match at WrestleMania. Of course, it was the second match of the pre-show. You didn't need a heel in this one. This was classic wrestling, and I repeat this, it's my favorite phrase. I'll say it again here. It's classic wrestling storytelling. The two best were going at it. Let's see who the real winner is going to be. They were the two best performers of the entire tournament. They're head-to-head. They're best friends. You don't need a heel in this. It's just the two best going at it to prove their supremacy. And at the end of the night, Cedric Alexander bested Mustafa Ali. And I will say this, it was a great night for North Carolina. It was a great night at WrestleMania. All the big stars from North Carolina walked out on top, so it was quite the experience for us watching live. Ryan, I don't remember, were you actually able to see most of this match, or were you still stuck in merchandise purgatory for this?
I'd already got past merchandise. I came back for the very end of the men's battle royal. At the start of the match, I went to go get a drink. That was probably the fatal flaw in my plan.
Are you out of your mind?
Well, some people get thirsty, and I was the one.
You wanted another damn hurricane. That's what you wanted.
No. I wanted a WrestleMania cup to add to my collection of wrestling souvenirs that I'm slowly growing.
Ryan is a teetotaler. Ryan doesn't even drink soda. He is like straight water. He's like the teetotalist of the teetotalers.
Yeah, pretty much. But as soon as I got up from my seat, because I didn't know if there was going to be a little bit of a break between the Battle Royal and the Cruiserweight match, as soon as I got up from my seat, I heard the music play, and I said, well, hell. I got back to the match around the time that Mustafa Ali went for his first, I believe it was his first inverted 450. So pretty much right near the end.
054.
Right. So it was very impressive to see that in person. I will say that first and foremost. Unfortunately, I missed 90% of the match.
Yeah, well, it's one of those matches that, sitting where we were sitting, I mean, it was a good match. I actually have not got a chance to go back and watch this match yet on the network. It's been such a hectic couple of days since
I have, and I'll tell you what, it's one of my candidates for match of the year.
Really? Was it that good on the network?
Yes, it was. I mean, they told one hell of a story. Here are two best friends basically beating the hell out of each other to be top dog in that division.
Well, I tell you what, looking forward in this division, they have some exceptional talents that are lined up. And I think one of the most interesting, and we can get into this as the weeks progress. I think we can talk about this maybe even Saturday if we get into it. But Buddy Murphy has been a complete revelation in this division, especially over the tournament. I think he is the one to watch. Whether or not Vince is going to go with Buddy Murphy as kind of the top heel on 205 Live moving forward. You have Drew Gulak there who, has really been clicking well as of late as well. Mustafa Ali, what can you say? He's one of the most exciting performers. Lucha House Party, Jack Gallagher. I am the world's biggest Jack Gallagher fan. So I love to get me some more Gallagher on TV. Brian Kendrick, he's a good gatekeeper, veteran presence there. Akira Tozawa and Hideo Itami, they're doing some good work right now. 205 Live has really come a long way. It's going to be interesting to see how they move forward with that brand.
Based on what you said there, Biff, 205 Live has come a long way in a very, very short time.
Well, thank you, Based H. That's all you can say. Triple H took over and did not take him long to get the seeds planted for a little bit of a revival.
Exactly. That's what they need. They need to revive that product to the point that it is must see. They captured me when this tournament started. I started watching it again. I'm like, okay, let me check it out. And I was like every Tuesday night while I'm at work, and I work third shifts.
Right.
I'm going, okay, what happened on 205 Live? And I'm pulling that up before I'm pulling up anything on the community we belong to. I want to see that, and that's unusual for me.
Well, really over the last couple of months, Tuesday night, SmackDown has been really hit or miss. But the Mixed Match Challenge was very fun for what it was. But 205 Live was carrying Tuesday nights there, leading up into WrestleMania especially. And we could talk about SmackDown's poor quality over the last few months. But, 205 Live really kind of set the bar on Tuesday nights, was really the best show of the week building up to WrestleMania. And Ryan, this is where you can jump in too, because you were the one that kind of let me back into this. You were kind of getting into 205 Live again before I did Was there one particular performer from the tournament that really stood out to you? I know Buddy Murphy did an excellent job. You have Drew Gulak, aforementioned Mustafa Ali, and of course our homie, the Queen City's favorite son, Cedric Alexander, your cruiserweight champion, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. But, what are your thoughts on the state of 205 Live moving forward, Ryan? Is there anybody in particular you're looking forward to? And do you think we're getting a call-up in the Superstar Shakeup? Do you think we could be seeing some NXT talent moving up to 205 Live in the weeks to come?
I'm not sure about any call-ups coming. They probably could stand to use a little bit more if they really want to flesh out the division. I've been a big fan of a lot of the Cruiserweights since the Cruiserweight Classic. They've got a lot of talent on that roster. I was really happy to see Cedric Alexander win the title. Mustafa Ali definitely become one of my favorites here recently. And I mean, really, there's so many people I can sit here and say are just great and they're my favorite. It's hard to pick. Buddy Murphy's really come out of nowhere. I didn't know a lot of his work in NXT, if he even had a lot of work in NXT.
He did.
Okay. The Dubstep Cowboys, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he is also he was managed by Alexa Bliss with his tag team partner at one point.
Yeah, Blake and Murphy.
Yeah. Right.
Blake and Murphy, and I'll tell you what, Blake and Murphy were solid.
Very much a throwback tag team with them, and kind of with a new presentation with the annoyingly catchy theme song there, and Alexa Bliss, because Alexa Bliss is Alexa Bliss, but
yes, she is.
That's all we'll say on the family entertainment programming. But yeah,
Alexa Bliss is a gun. And it begins with C and ends with T, and it ain't cute.
Right.
So honestly, there's only one thing. If 205 Live continues the way it's going, there's only one thing that I want on 205 Live that they don't have right now. I really just want Neville back.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Guys,
not happening, but I want it to happen. I know it's not.
It's not going to happen for one simple reason. I believe, and this is my opinion, guys, and you can shoot me to hell if you want. Neville wants back on the big shows, either Raw or SmackDown, because remember when he got injured, he was in a match with Jericho on the I believe it was SmackDown.
Right, he broke his leg. He slid and his leg
broke his ankle.
Right.
And after he came back and was done, they put him on 205 Live. That, to me, was an insult to him. And he wants to be back on either Raw or SmackDown, because if you want to be technical about it, shouldn't Finn be on 205 Live at 190 pounds? And that's his argument.
And when it comes to Neville, I think his biggest issue that he's always going to come up to is his height.
But Neville was an NXT heavyweight champion.
He was, and trust me, I'm not saying he does not deserve to be on the main roster, and he should be. I would love nothing more to see AJ Styles and Neville go at it for the world title. That would be absolutely fantastic.
That would be a hell of a match.
It would be one of the best matches they could put on a card. Now, I say I want him back on 205 Live. That's just where I feel like they would try to put him. I would like to have him back in general, and unfortunately, if the rumors are to be true, he's not coming back. They're saying that he's moved back to England already, so it's very unlikely that he's even going to be back. But
his
he had that presence.
His contract is frozen,
right?
So he can't even work
right
overseas.
Maybe best case scenario, he shows up for that UK tournament that they're going to be putting on if they can work something out, but. You know how they are with that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we have to look at this from two different perspectives. At the time that Neville was competing, 205 Live was trash.
Right.
205 Live was nothing when Neville was on the show. He was the only good part of the show.
He was carrying it.
Yeah, he was carrying it very much so. And so 205 Live now, it doesn't have the kind of fan support that Raw or SmackDown does. It's going to take a long time to build up support for 205 Live, and I think they really could stand to make some style changes to the show to really help that along. But 205 Live now is not the demotion that it was when Neville was with them and actively going around with the company.
Well, the difference is this. 205 Live was struggling even with Neville as a champion and as a heel. They brought Enzo over to try to save it, and in the process buried Neville.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they went from the work weight to the characters.
Yeah, Neville got mad, and I can understand it. Neville was pissed off that they buried his ass. Made him job out to a what's the word I'm looking for?
Glorified manager?
No, a substandard wrestler in Enzo.
You mean Enzo wasn't a great wrestler? I mean,
Enzo was never a great wrestler. Enzo was better as a manager.
Yeah, he should have never been more than a manager that would get ragdolled around the ring. That's all he should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They had an opportunity with Enzo to make him the next Bobby Heenan.
Well, that's well, let's be completely 100% clear. There will never be another Bobby Heenan.
No,
but of the Bobby Heenan archetype, yes.
Right, the closest you can get in 2018.
You guys, both of you get my point.
Right.
Yeah,
he been memorable as a manager. Now he's just going to be an afterthought that was popular for about a year.
I would say 6 months.
Yeah,
he's very much a flash in the pan, and it's it's unfortunate that his career did get derailed because I think he could have had a nice career for himself, but
I don't think he could have. If you hear everything that they said about his backstage personality, he was going to shoot himself in the foot sooner rather than later.
Well, shit. On a European trip, didn't Roman throw his ass off the bus?
Yeah, he was. If you believe everything you heard, he was thrown off the bus. They referenced it, and I believe in a promo where the Miz basically tore Enzo down, and I don't think he was long for the business. Not with his attitude.
No.
And it's unfortunate that somebody with that much talent had that little self-awareness to be, straightening up, flying right. It's just a testament to the kind of character you have to be to, exist in WWE. This isn't the Wild West of the territory days.
No.
Where you could just kind of fly off the cuff, and if you burn bridges in one place, you can go work somewhere else. If you burn your bridge to WWE, it takes a long time to repair that bridge, if it can ever be repaired at all.
From all accounts, his in-ring persona was basically his real-life persona turned down from 11 to probably about 6. So, yeah, he just was not the person that could be in that kind of position.
Well, the dark days of Enzo as Cruiserweight Champion are behind us, and I'm looking forward to seeing what becomes of Cedric Alexander's title run.
I just hope one thing. They don't turn Cedric heel. He is too much of a white bread babyface. I could see Mustafa turning before I see Cedric turning.
I gotta be honest, I kind of hope they keep both baby faces. It's been so long since we've had a true rivalry that didn't devolve into a blood feud, and there is nothing wrong with the blood feud. We were just talking a little bit ago about Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. There's always a place in wrestling for the blood feud.
How they had Tommaso Ciampa enter.
Oh, God.
No music, no nothing. The crowd was, the vitriol the crowd threw at him was epic.
We just marveled. We were just sitting there marveling at it.
I was like, oh, shades of Comiskey Park.
That was the first time that I've had a legit heel. I've heard legit heel heat in so long. This wasn't just booing because it was fashionable. This was legitimate. You are a dick. We are booing the crap out of you. And it was just tremendous to be there in person.
You understand what I say when I say Comiskey Park.
Well, we're talking old school here. I don't know that Ryan can fully appreciate it.
Ryan, I hope you understand what I'm about to go into. I have to talk about this match. This was Dick the Bruiser and Bobo Brazil versus the original Sheik, Eddie Farhat, and Baron von Raschke at Chicago's Comiskey Park. Back then, back in the 70s, they played no theme music. But when you saw who it was, fans reacted.
The fan reactions were the theme song back in the day.
Exactly.
That was kind of how you made your entrance. And I love the sound. This is one thing that I particularly miss about the old Crockett shows. And I have only heard
music was a background. It wasn't the main course.
Well, you could tell by the sound of the fans, the passion that they had for it. I mean, you hear boos and cheers today, and it's kind of almost like the crowd is just playing their part for the TV production. This was the first time that I have heard legitimate fan angst since maybe Roman Reigns last year at SmartMania.
No. Well, yeah, I will give you that. But let's go back to when Ric Flair entered the ring before he had music against, let's say, Ricky Steamboat.
Yes. You see some of those old Mid-Atlantic DVDs that Jim Cornette has or used to have. I don't know if he still sells them or not, but Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat from about 1978, 1979-ish, when they were. I can't remember if it was
tearing it down at house shows, for Christ's sake.
I think they were feuding for the U.S. Heavyweight Championship at that point. I might be mistaken on that, but there's some footage from the Greensboro Coliseum. No music, no commentary, and there's just a single 8mm camera that's sitting here filming this match. But the crowd itself is just livid with Ric Flair. They are just tearing him a new asshole. It is a sight to behold, and that's how it used to be. That level of fan emotion in a match, that used to be the norm. It wasn't just something that they busted out for a special occasion. That's what I was kind of getting to with the old Crockett shows, even into the late 80s, when you're getting into kind of the age of Ted Turner. The crowd still, Rick Steiner winning the TV title for Mike Rotunda at Starrcade 1988, to this day remains one of the loudest crowd reactions I've ever heard in my life.
Agreed.
It was shaking the Norfolk scope when he won the title and he took that victory lap. The camera is actually shaking because the building is so loud and the people
people are beating on the cameraman.
Yeah, it's just pandemonium. That's the kind of emotion that wrestling used to have. And that's lost.
Let's put it this way.
Modern product.
Let's put it this way. My grandmother knew someone who was known as Wayne Bach. He used to wrestle professionally in Chicago. I don't know what his name was. I'm trying to find him. I'm still working on it. I can't get the information because my grandmother's passed and as my mother and all that. But he was a heel wrestler who was stabbed in the calf by a fan with a metal nail file because he was cheating and using the ropes to pin the face.
Oof. That's how much fans used to care about the matches. That's how much getting stabbed with a nail file. Of course, it's actually a famous local legend here. Ric Flair has talked about it a couple of times. Blackjack Mulligan had a match.
Was it your grandma or your great grandma?
It was my great grandmother who charged at the Charlotte Coliseum in a Blackjack Mulligan match. She had kind of that fiery temper. That was great storytelling at Christmas dinners. We're talking about a great grandmother being a wrestling fan and trying to get in the ring at the Charlotte Coliseum. You got to have no fear to go in the ring with Blackjack Mulligan. And Blackjack had some tough times in the Carolinas. He had a rattlesnake thrown in the ring at him one time. In Asheville, North Carolina, Ric Flair brought this up. A fan had a burlap sack, and he just threw it into the ring, and it turned out to be a rattlesnake. And the fan was not arrested. Nope. The fan was not arrested. The cops were like, Blackjack
They did not arrest anyone who attacked a heel back in the day. If you attacked the face, you were arrested. But if you attacked the heel...
If you attacked the face, you were taking your life in your own hands because the rest of the crowd could get you.
Right. But
especially some of those Mid-South crowds.
If you attacked the heel as a fan, you were a hero, and they're not going to take you out in handcuffs. No way.
No. And of course, there's the famous story from Tulsa. Jim Cornette and Jim Ross had both talked about with the riot breaking out, and Bill Watts had pulled his car inside the arena because it was hailing a thunderstorm. And Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express are trying to get to the back in the middle of a riot. And as they're going, they keep losing cops that are, peeling off to stop people trying to attack them. And Jim Ross is over there telling Cornette to get away from the Cadillac because fans are throwing crap on it and going to break the windshield on it. So it used to be a different world. It's hard to really compare today's wrestling with the wrestling that Taker Minion, I know you grew up on, the wrestling that I really searched out and studied. But even, compared to the Attitude Era, which is what myself and Ryan came of age on, the crowds today are just nowhere near as passionate as they used to be. So Ciampa and Gargano, that was the kind of a throwback crowd for that match. A pure face, pure heel. The crowd was with it. They were following the script. I know Vince wishes he could get that kind of fan participation for Roman's matches, which we'll get to momentarily. But, as far as, the crowd noise go, it was, just a tremendous experience being in the Superdome for this. It was tremendous at the Smoothie King Center for TakeOver. But, it really just speaks, I think, volumes to the fan experience at WrestleMania. The most passionate fans of the year are going to show up. It's very much a quote-unquote smart crowd. You have to be a hardcore fan to be willing to sit there for 187 hours, especially in those hot and stuffy seats. But it's an experience. It's a spectacle. Ryan, we were talking about this a little while ago. Even though there's a level of discomfort being in the crowd for so long, there's a spectacle factor involved in being at a WrestleMania that actually makes it worth it in a certain way.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade the spectacle of just saying that I was there. I mean, I went and bought a lot of merchandise being there just to come back and say, yeah, I was there, and I've got this to show that I was there. And I wish I was closer to the stage. I wish the arena didn't suck. I wish a lot of things about it. But I still went, and I can finally say that I went to a WrestleMania.
It was a good time, I think. I mean, it's not something that I would do again, I don't think, unless, someone bought the tickets for me. Or they were ringside. That would kind of be a determining factor on that front.
You never know, Biff. I might have, because my partner's over in Japan, right?
Yes.
You never know. I might have an extra press cred for next year.
Now, I will say this. The Wrestle Kingdom show is the last item on the bucket list. That and the Royal Rumble. I'd like to see a Rumble live and in person, which I think would be...
You need to talk to my partner about Wrestle Kingdom, because he went to the one this year.
We're gonna have a talk on Saturday. I'm gonna have to work some magic and get a hookup. I think Ryan and I both our big plan is to save up money to go to a Wrestle Kingdom show one year. So that
your airline alone will be about $1,200 a piece.
Yeah, I'll be sitting in the airline. I'll be sitting in the plane about as long as I was sitting at the Superdome. So WrestleMania was good practice.
As long as you have valid passports, you shouldn't have a problem.
Well, what I think we're going to do is make a stopover in Hawaii for a week to get prepped for the last half of the flight, and then come back for a week to Hawaii after to recover. That's the plan there, I think. But yeah, Wrestle Kingdom, that's definitely a bucket list. We'd also like to see a Rumble. So.
Well, shall we move on to the Women's Battle Royal?
Yeah, it's a good segue as any. I was pissed off by this match.
Why?
Utterly pissed off because I can't stand Naomi.
I thought it was the perfect. I thought it was the perfect way to end it. To be honest with you, and here's why. They moved along the Sasha Bailey shit.
They did. I will grant you that. It was for the storyline of Bailey and Sasha, it was the right call to make.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely I can approve of it from that perspective. But and again, my perspective on the Women's Battle Royal was coming from the idea that Asuka was winning the title. Now, I assumed Asuka was keeping her streak.
Oh, God, let's not get into that, but yet.
Well, this is why I had Becky Lynch winning the Battle Royal. I thought, with Becky having been positioned quite strongly in March, they were setting the stage for Becky to win and then become a challenger for Asuka, because Asuka was going to need challengers that were credible enough to actually make their matches competitive. I didn't think they would go back to Charlotte again so soon. I felt like Charlotte would probably be taking a step back for a little while. They wasn't going to rehash a rematch right away with that. Of course, the end result of the women's title match for SmackDown kind of made all of that moot anyway. But I really thought Becky was earmarked for this. I think Becky needed it far more than Naomi did. And so I was a little bit aggravated at the result. I am not a Naomi fan in the slightest. I have had so many arguments with Naomi fans that just make her out to be the second coming of Christ, and I'm sorry, I don't.
She's not. I will say she's not. Okay, but
yeah,
if you weren't going to have Becky win it, who else was left?
Well, therein lies the rub. I mean, it had to be somebody, and with Bayley and Sasha and needing their angle to progress, you needed an out for it, and so I guess it's better than Natalya.
Yeah,
I guess
or
it's a better option
for that matter.
Yeah, so I mean, it's I really shouldn't say.
Or God forbid, Mandy Rose,
aka Eva Marie 2.0.
Yeah.
It would have been the perfect opportunity to give the rub to an NXT call-up to have them come in and win that and then put them in the main event. I feel like
the one I was hoping would have won it, believe it or not, it was that Indian chick that was there. I can't think of her name right off the top of my head now.
Aaliyah?
Aria Davi. Davi, the one that was trained by Kali.
I know who you're talking about. She was in the Mae Young Classic.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He was also in the Battle Royal.
Right.
Yeah,
I could have seen her winning it to help forward her NXT career.
Kind of like a rehash of the Baron Corbin storyline from WrestleMania 32, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a debut win. Yeah, I could buy that, I guess. I think that would have been interesting. I know the fans were quite upset when Kairi Sane got dumped.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a pointed little moment. And then Becky Lynch getting dumped, that had a lot of people sour in person, too.
Becky Lynch getting dumped by, I believe it was Sasha, was it not?
I can't recall, to be honest with you. I think it was Sasha. I mean, that was good to get Sasha heel heat, but again, I am team Sasha.
I don't see Sasha as a heel right now.
No, I think Bayley is clearly the one that's got sour grapes over this. I'm complete team Sasha in this little feud that they've got developing. I do believe Sasha is a better heel than she is a face.
But if they do it right, Bayley will have so much heat as a heel. And we all know, and I know you've seen it, Biff, and have you, Ryan? Pamela Martinez on the indie circuit was one hell of a heel.
With one hell of a potty mouth, too, I might add. But that's
yes, she was. But the thing about it is that it worked.
She's got it in her. She has the ability to play heel. Now, I think one thing that makes me sad about this, and this is purely a shot at WWE's main roster booking of the women, it's losing some impact from the perspective Bayley never had the true strong babyface run on the main roster that she did in NXT.
She wasn't allowed.
Right. She was never allowed to be the level of talent that she was down in NXT. She never had that strong babyface run. And that's going to hamstring
part of the reason was a 5-foot-tall blonde that Vince was enamored with.
That's another case. That's the female equivalent to Enzo Amore. She never should have gotten in the ring. She was perfectly fine as a valet. I don't know why they felt the need to make her a wrestler when her true strong suit was talking. She could have been an excellent heel valet. We see down in NXT how good Zelina Vega has been with Andrade Cien Almas, she almost single-handedly made him relevant.
And
so
I'm
that's
worried.
what a manager can do.
I'm worried. When Almas and her come up, they have her get in the ring as a wrestler. Zelina Vega is not a wrestler. She never has been.
Well, they made Lana get in the ring. They turned Lana to a wrestler.
And Lana was not a great wrestler even in NXT.
She was never trained to be a wrestler. She just came in as a manager. That's all she came in as.
She came in as a wrestler, and they moved her to valet with Rusev.
Yeah, that was very early on. I mean, she had no.
And now they bring her to the main roster and wanted to wrestle. It's not going to work. Same thing with Zelina Vega. Yeah, she will throw the occasional head scissors into the steps or whatnot. The Hurricane Rana in the steps. But you get her in a ring, she's not going to last.
No, and I think what it is. I honestly, this might be tied into something that Michael Hayes once talked about on the Legends of Wrestling Roundtable, or at least he alluded to it. You know, I think Vince sees managers not only as archaic and outdated, but it's also he's paying two people to do the work for one person, basically. A manager is not, in certain circumstances, they can get over on their own. Bobby Heenan would be a case study for this. Bobby Heenan was the top heel for much of the 80s, and the people that he managed were able to cycle through. That's why you had a King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania 2, Andre at WrestleMania 3. Of course, Barbarian and Warlord would come in at different points. King Haku. You know, Bobby Heenan was the heel. He's the one that Hogan's is really feuding with, but it's his henchmen that are doing the dirty work. But that really is kind of the exception to the rule. Generally, managers are there to get stars over because they lack the ability to get over on their own. Maybe they're not good talkers, or maybe, you know, they lack a certain spark, and the manager gives that to them until they can find their way. And I think Vince sees managers, you know, he's paying someone, you know, he's paying two people when he can only be paying one. That's been the knock on Vince as far as tag team wrestling goes. Vince doesn't like tag team from the perspective that he's paying two people when he could be paying one person, you know, create one star and not have to pay two. Maybe that's playing into the role of the death of the managers on the main roster. But, you know, Lana, you know, she was managing just fine, and now she's in the ring. Alexa Bliss was managing. Now she's in the ring. I worried Zelina Vega could see a similar fate on the main roster.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame. It's a shame because it hamstrung that division on Raw. Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss, they told as good a story as they could tell, but that match was never holding a candle to the story Asuka and Charlotte had going. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that that match got overshadowed that badly. I can tell you from first-hand experience, and Ryan can vouch for this. Nobody cared in the arena. She got a nice respect pop, Nia did, when she won, but that match was just complete dead silence for the most part.
I was happy to see Nia win, to be honest.
She needed to win.
I wasn't expecting her to get the title, though. And you know what I said.
Well, I thought Carmella was cashing in. I thought she was going to jump ship and cash in on Nia and some sort of tomfoolery, but
you know what I posted more than once? That Mickey was going to cause a dusty finish.
Right.
Nia would win, but not get the title.
Yeah, well, Nia had to win. Whether she walked out with the title or not, Nia had to walk out with her head held high.
Yes.
Because of the storyline. If Alexa had just won flat out, that would kill Nia. And so...
Yeah, and Nia is too strong. Way too strong.
Yeah, you couldn't do that to Nia. She's too vulnerable, and she's got too much potential, I think. Particularly, you know, she does not fit the classic archetype of what Vince has traditionally pushed, which makes her unique, I think, in that respect.
But the thing about it is too is that you got the naysayers out there saying, well, she's related to The Rock and she's related to the Usos and she's related to Roman. That's the only reason she got the title. No, the storyline called for it.
Right. It was the right call to make. It was the only conclusion that would really leave the fans satisfied, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, we'll get into that as we get into the main roster.
Yeah.
But of course, with Naomi winning the Women's Battle Royal, it is what it is. You know, we'll see where it goes.
The thing they need to do with both the Battle Royals, the Andre and the Women's, is they need to make it worth something. The winner gets something.
Right. It really.
That's been the problem. That's been the problem with it. That's been the problem with the Andre from the beginning. Yeah, they might get some kind of a push, but last year Mojo Rawley won it. What happened? Absolutely nothing. You got no title shots of any kind.
Yeah,
they basically turned around and buried him even deeper than Bailey is.
Yeah. So there's got to be something. There's got to be something a lot more than just the trophy. The trophy itself means
there's got to be a payoff.
It has to be right. The battle royals are gateways to something bigger. If the battle royal is the end result in and of itself, then it's just a nice little moment in the moment, and that's it. It's like, the King of the Ring, towards the end there, the winner of the King of the Ring was, going up into the main event scene. I think in 2002, the winner of the King of the Ring tournament got to face the champion at SummerSlam.
One of the greatest King of the Rings was when Steve Austin won. That was the birth of Austin 316.
Yeah, it used to actually mean something. That was prestige and value. It's you have to. Everything needs to build to something more. Even when you get the climactic blow off to a feud, you have to keep moving forward.
Right,
the story never ends.
Yeah, and Ryan's sitting there. Ryan Cyo's awful quiet.
I think Ryan was still trying to get the merchandise and the drink at this point. I don't know how much of the women's battle royal.
Entire women's battle royal. I heard Becky Lynch's music hit, and as I was standing in line, somebody was watching the network on their phone, and I was kind of looking over their shoulder, and I noticed that Naomi won it, and I was like, whatever. It would make more. I would care more if the battle royal was going to lead to something, as you were saying. I mean, the last battle royal winner for the Andre, it was Mojo. What'd they do? Nothing, as you said. Before that, it was Baron Corbin, and he didn't really build off of that. He just ended up winning the Money in the Bank, and it wasn't from that either. It just,
Well, no, they did do something with Baron.
Oh, they did.
He won the Money in the Bank contract and failed in his cash-in.
Right, so he's back down to nothing again.
He failed in his cash-in against Jinder because of John Cena.
We don't talk about Jinder Mahal as WWE champion on this broadcast.
I apologize. Find me, I will pay it.
That's a spag. That's a paddling. That's a paddling. So.
Oh damn! Really? You promise?
We'll talk Saturday afternoon.
I'm feeling comfortable now.
And on that note,
let's put it this way, guys. I lived in Mobile, Alabama, and I was paddled by teachers. So your paddling probably wouldn't be much of anything either.
Well, we are straying off of the family friendly portion of this show.
Your own damn fault.
I know.
Damn fault.
I know it. I know. It was a long.
This is what happens.
It's a long show. It was a long show, and it drained some brain cells from me. I'm still recovering from the trip.
No, the hurricanes drained the damn brain cells off of you.
Well, they drained my wallet first, and then they drained the brain cells off. I will admit, though, sitting there drinking out in public in the middle of a little park, that was quite the nice way to spend a Monday morning relaxing after the show. But that's neither here nor there. Speaking of the show, that leads us into the main roster. The main show portion of WrestleMania started off with a bang. New Intercontinental Champion Seth Rollins. He was not the person I thought was winning this title. But he does, in fact, become a Grand Slam champion, wins his first Intercontinental title. pins The Miz, which I always approve of. Pin the champion in a triple threat match. That's the way it should be. Quite the opener. Probably one of the better pure matches on the entire card from where I sat. Ryan, this was your first match. I think you were able to make it back for this one. Tell me, were you excited about the possibilities of Seth Rollins holding the title? Were you hoping for more out of Finn? What's your perspective on the IC title triple threat?
I think Seth Rollins is going to be a great champion. He's proven himself with the world title when he didn't end up getting himself hurt, albeit as more of a heel than a face. But the crowd is really behind him right now. I wanted Finn to win. I like Finn. I'm sad that it seems like they've completely gotten rid of the demon character that he goes with, so he could use a little bit of a retooling in his entrance, because that music doesn't really fit a guy coming out wearing a leather jacket, but neither here nor there. Great match. The ending was good with the stomp and the coup de grace and everybody just getting their stuff in at the end. It was enjoyable. Seth Rollins probably the person that should have won it.
Well, I mean, it's a perspective of what you want to do with Seth Rollins moving forward.
Yeah.
I have gone on record. I think I said this last night, and I'll say it here for posterity's sake. And again, we're going to get into this with the main event. We have a lot to talk about on that main event. I have a soapbox ready for that. But Seth Rollins, I think everybody can have a piece on that one. But I made the point, Seth Rollins, I think, is above the Intercontinental title. And that's no disrespect to the Intercontinental title. It's my favorite all-time championship. So I'm speaking as a fan of this and not as a detractor. Seth Rollins is really who I would be building my company around right now. Especially coming out of WrestleMania and the final nail in the Roman Reigns coffin, which we'll get to. Seth Rollins, you could plug him in as the top babyface and not lose anything. I think he really, especially in the build-up to Elimination Chamber, he really showcased what he could do if
Uh-oh.
really went from a okay.
Uh-oh.
I think we have disagreement, maybe.
You're interrupting. You're skipping.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let's backtrack then.
At least I didn't hear it. Maybe they did, but I didn't.
I heard about 3 syllables, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
I am completely confused. Did I audio drop or something? Or
yes.
Yeah, you did.
Huh. Am I back now?
Yes, you are.
Unfortunately.
Well, screw you too there, pal. Okay.
Sorry, that was a little rude. I apologize.
Yeah, it's just a little rude. All right,
do I need to go into total Triple H mode?
No. Let me backtrack. What was the last part you heard? It's live streaming, folks, and technical difficulties happen.
You were talking about Seth Rollins being someone you would build around.
Okay, yeah, Seth Rollins. Okay, I believe that Seth Rollins could step into the shoes of Roman Reigns right now and you not lose anything with the fans. I think that Seth Rollins has proven, especially in the last 2 months, that if you give him enough tender loving care from creative, that he can be a top-level, credible main event babyface. I think that Seth Rollins is above the Intercontinental title for that reason. I don't think Seth needs the Intercontinental title as much as Finn does. I think Seth should be really moving on to bigger and better things. Finn, on the other hand, I think needed this title more because I don't think Finn is established at the same level that Seth is. And that's why I was picking Finn to win the title to begin with. I love the idea of Seth Rollins and Finn Balor having a nice little feud for the title. I love it. Those matches have been fantastic. But if we're looking strictly from the pragmatic perspective of what is best for the product moving forward, I was not a fan of the decision in this match. I think Seth should be moving on to bigger and better things, and I think Finn could have had more value with the Intercontinental title run. That's just my perspective. I think Seth could be the guy if Vince wanted him to be the guy.
Well, here's the problem. You had Dean and Roman already become Grand Slam champions.
Yes. So,
the Shield was one of the most dominant factions in WWE in a very, very long time.
Yes, probably since Evolution, I would say.
Yep. Why would you sit there and knock and degrade and minimize Seth getting the Intercontinental Championship, the last piece he needed to become a Grand Slam champion?
It's not knocking Seth, and it's not really knocking the Intercontinental title either. It's not so much, wanting to deprive.
And his audio cut out again.
It was good.
Yep, I'm losing again.
This is a problematic. I'm not sure what's going on with my microphone today. No, I'm not knocking the decision from the perspective that I didn't want Seth to be a Grand Slam champion. I think, it's good that Seth has that accolade now, too, because it tells a good story with the Shield, especially if we ever get a Shield triple threat. I'm just looking at it from the perspective, I want Seth in the main event title picture.
Okay, I can accept that. But who will be his opponent? That's the question.
Well, if I had my druthers, Seth would be the babyface and Roman would be the heel champion. That's just me. But I don't think we're going to get that. I think Seth will go heel before Roman does, unfortunately. So I'm just strictly looking at this from, I think Seth should be in the Universal title picture. I think Finn could have been a very serviceable, very strong Intercontinental champion, and you could have gotten more with Finn as the champion than Seth. I think with Seth as the Intercontinental champion, you're depriving Seth of the shot at the Universal Championship, which is where he needs to be at this stage. So that's the only reason that I was disapproving of the end result. I have no problem with Seth holding the Intercontinental title in and of itself. So that's kind of my thought process on that match. We may feel free to disagree on that, but it was a good match.
It was a good match. I mean, and I'm not going to lie to you, I felt the right person won.
That's fine. I mean, we can agree to disagree on that. Trust me.
No. I expected Seth to get the Grand Slam. That's a known fact. Okay. Everybody knows how I feel about him. He makes me want to throw up in my mouth. It was time for him to give it up, because now when he gets it back, he will be when it's not if, it's when he gets the title back, he will be a 9-time, exceeding Jericho.
Yes.
And then he'll hold it for 30 more days, and he'll beat Pedro Morales' total days of holding the title. It's almost perfect.
Yeah. So, and that really begs the question: will he be beating Seth for the title, or will Seth drop it to Finn at some point?
I think Seth will be dropping it to Finn.
Yeah, and obviously we also have to consider the wild card in the room with Daniel Bryan now back on the main roster at some point.
Oh, please.
The Miz and Bryan, that's a feud that's going to have to happen. They've been building to that for 2 years.
Oh, please, no.
It's going to happen.
And I will tell you right now, it's gonna irritate a lot of people when I say this. That is the stance of Daniel Bryan. If he's not around a title, they're going to shit on whomever they have near that title. because they want Daniel Bryan to have the title and reign forever.
Well, that's one reason you can't put him and Roman on the same show.
No,
if you put Daniel Bryan on the same show as Roman Reigns is even more dead than he already is.
Well, Roman Reigns is dead.
Yeah, we agree on that front. So, and we'll talk about that in the main event part too. But
yeah,
we do need to move along here to the next match on the card, to Charlotte and Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship. This match, probably even more than the first one, I think stood out as one of the best matches of the night. Charlotte continuing to showcase her abilities in the ring. She continues to grow by leaps and bounds. Not expecting this end result. This was not what I thought was coming, but Charlotte is the one to end the streak. New Orleans, not a good building for streaks.
It seems so.
Anyone that's brought a streak into New Orleans in the Superdome has lost it. Undertaker, WrestleMania 30, Asuka here at WrestleMania 34. So Charlotte, at least out of WrestleMania, was the women's champion. She has, of course, since lost the title. Carmella cashed in. Less said about that, the better. But of course, Charlotte defeating Asuka. I thought this was an excellent match. Guys, I'm going to get your opinion on it too. There's a two-part question that I'll pose to both of you. Taker, we'll start with you. Number one, what did you think of the match? And number two, was it the right decision for the streak to end?
The match was great. Do I think the streak should have ended there? Not really, but I also looked at Asuka at the end of the match. It almost seemed that she was happy to have that weight off of her shoulders because it limited her as to what she could do. I mean, once they made it part of the mixed match challenge, I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah,
They made it more important than the mixed match challenge itself. And the mixed match challenge was about charity. Yeah. That was Vince sticking his hand in with Ryan Ward and saying, Asuka can't lose a streak right now.
Yeah.
Since when did a tag match count against a streak? It didn't before. Why should it now?
Well, Battle Royals apparently don't.
Exactly.
Battle Royals and tag matches should not count.
Yeah.
They never have in the past. Why should they now?
As long as she's the one that doesn't eat the pin or the submission. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that would have made the most sense, I think. Unfortunately, they decided to go.
Was I okay with it? Yeah. Because it took a weight off of Asuka.
I'll be honest. I'll throw my 2 cents in here. I thought Asuka was being built up for Ronda Rousey, and I think now it's pretty clear that the plan is for Charlotte to go with Ronda.
No, it's still gonna be Asuka.
I don't think at WrestleMania though. I think that's a SummerSlam match now. I think they'll get to Asuka before they do Charlotte.
I see Asuka winning.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I really don't know. I think if you're going the route of Charlotte and Ronda at WrestleMania next year, and that seems to be the rumor right now.
But what are the stakes going to be? Is Charlotte coming back to Raw?
That's a good question. With the SmackDown Women's title now off of her, it does free her to move to Raw, but that brings up the interesting point. What are you doing with Nia Jax? If you put Charlotte on Raw, now Nia either goes heel, which defeats the purpose of turning her baby face for 2 months, or Charlotte goes heel, and it's kind of a shame for Charlotte to go heel right as she's catching her stride as a babyface. It doesn't feel, because we've seen Charlotte as a heel. This is the first time that we've really seen top level babyface runs for Charlotte. So this is the problem that WWE has run into.
Biff, I will say this: Charlotte's killing it as a babyface right now.
Yeah, she's taken her claim as the greatest they've ever had.
She has gotten out from under her father's shadow. Finally.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, too, with the whole who's going to be facing who this time next year, WrestleMania, there's the magic of the Women's Royal Rumble. Well, anybody can win and challenge anybody on any show. So long-term booking probably don't matter. They can just patch it up when it gets to that.
Well, Ryan, I want you to jump in here because this is an interesting point, and you've talked at length, not necessarily on this podcast, but from our conversations, we've talked in the past. You have not always been the biggest fan of Charlotte.
Still not, honestly.
Okay, so you're still not really sold on her.
She is a great wrestler. She can do some really athletic moves, and she can put on good matches. But she needs a little bit of work to be truly good. She's really good in the women's division. I'm not trying to be mean toward the rest of the women's division, but there are some things that I watch Charlotte matches and I would just want to pull my hair out. She'll sit there and get worked on for the entire match. She'll get thrown into tables or barricades or whatever, and then just 5 seconds later, she's up jumping around and she's fine.
It's no different than what her dad did.
Right.
That's probably where she picked it up, to be honest.
Right. It's just for this day and age,
I picked it up a long time ago.
Yeah. It just it never. Sometimes it's very. I guess it breaks my immersion in the match sometimes to a bad extent. It's not as much enjoyable as it would be normally. Now, I'm coming more around to her. Don't get me wrong, but I still have the issues with her here and there. She is probably one of the better performers they have in that division, and she deserves to be near the top of the card. And hopefully, ideally, she will be for a while to come.
All right, well, let me ask you this question. Then I'll ask you the same question. You don't have to qualify this remark, okay? You don't have to explain why. But I'm giving you a choice. The question is, the best female performer in the WWE, whether it's the main roster or NXT, so you have the entire company here to choose from. Is the best female performer a member of the Four Horsewomen, or are you taking the field? In other words, is the best female performer Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, or Bayley, or is it somebody else? Who are you taking?
It's probably going to come down to Charlotte or Sasha for me. Bayley and Becky are both great, but they have murdered both of those characters into the ground, and that's a little of the knock against Sasha too, is they dropped her down a lot as well from where they were in NXT. Probably Charlotte's probably one of the top ones they have, depending on how Rousey continues to improve in the ring.
Okay, so you're going with the Four Horsewomen.
Yeah.
Taker, you got the field or you got the Horsewomen? Who's your top?
What do you mean?
Like, if you had to choose the best female performer in the entire company, either NXT or the main roster, is the best female performer a member of the Four Horsewomen, or is it not a member of the Four Horsewomen?
Not a member of the Four Horsewomen.
Who's your best performer in the company, female-wise?
To be honest with you, Nikki Cross.
Very interesting. That is a very interesting choice.
That's a good choice. I do like that choice.
Yeah, and I really hope.
Nikki Cross, okay, and here's why. And I love me some Asuka. Okay, I love Asuka to death. But Nikki Cross, when they did the last woman standing match with her and Asuka, yes, she lost. They did a ladder spot into the announce table that was 16 feet high. And when it was over, Nikki Cross is laying there, not sobbing. She's laughing, smiling and laughing. This is someone who gets it.
Yeah. She is
Nikki
definitely.
Cross understands the business better than most people give her credit for. She knew she was going to lose. But she said, I'm going to make it look like $1 million goddamn dollars to do it. And Nikki Cross is one of those people that can make any face or any heel. Once she is brought up to the main roster, she will make them look like they're unbelievably unstoppable.
hindsight being 2020, Asuka, and Asuka is a very special case because of the undefeated streak and how that played into the aura of her character.
Mm-hmm.
Asuka's title run in NXT was not as strong overall as Bayley's. I don't believe.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
But I will say this: of all the women that Asuka wrestled, now she had 2 matches with Bayley, she had 2 with Ember. The best challenger to Asuka was Nikki Cross.
Yes,
that was the best title feud that Asuka had in NXT. I hope that they do right by Nikki when she comes up to the main roster. This is kind of the reverse of what we were talking about earlier, where she's kind of falling into kind of like the lackey role for Sanity. She doesn't really get a chance to stand out as much on her own. I really hope they do right by her because she has an enormous amount of potential to be a very strong player on the main roster when Sanity comes up.
I know. And this is something that is out there. Nikki Cross earned my fandom in that match, in that last woman standing match with Asuka. Because she took both of, and we can both say, and you can go back and look at it on the network. Both women took a lot of abuse.
Yes.
Nikki took 3 times as much abuse as Asuka did. And yet, I would not have been upset had Nikki won the title that night.
No, it would have been perfect. It would have been absolute gold as far as the storyline goes. As much as the streak added to Asuka's aura and that specialness, I think it did hamstring a lot of what she could do, which, speaking to your point earlier, I think it's a monkey off her back now. I think now she can be free to do a little bit more. She can vary it up a little bit. Nikki Cross would have been an excellent champion. It would have been an excellent way to build, I think, around her if they wanted to move Asuka up. I've been on record. I was not a fan of Asuka relinquishing the title. I think that it hurt Ember not to beat Asuka for the title. And I'm of the opinion that Ember was probably the weakest of the NXT Women's Champions, at least in the last, 5 or 6. Since Charlotte won the title, basically, I think she's the weakest in that lineage. She was a noticeable step down, and that's no disrespect to Ember. But I think Nikki Cross could have done an amazing job as NXT Women's Champion. If Sanity sticks around or if she stays in NXT, which I don't know if she's going to be coming up to the main roster or not. I think everybody assumes Sanity will be coming up at some point soon. We'll see what happens. But WWE has a decision to make. They have a lot of ingredients in the cupboard. You've got Sasha and Bayley, which does not need the title.
No.
That feud is perfect that's a perfect feud away from the title. I do think Sasha will eventually end up with the title. I believe that Sasha and Bayley in Brooklyn at SummerSlam is earmarked as probably Raw or SmackDown, whichever brand they wind up on. That's going to be the top match for that respective brand at SummerSlam.
Whether it involves a title or not, it's going to be the top match.
Right. There's just too much of a story to miss out on there. So I think that
we need to see Bay heel.
Yes, I fully agree. That may not be a popular opinion, but that's coming. That match is coming. You've got Charlotte. You're going to have to figure out where you're going with Charlotte. Asuka is not going away. You don't just throw Asuka away. She's still strong. You still got a very strong performer in Asuka sitting there.
You know what I would like to see?
What would that be?
I'd like to see her go full kind of face paint behind the mask.
If they're not doing Finn as the demon, that option is there. I think that would be great.
See her go full kind of face paint and turn heel on everybody.
That evil clown makeup, that's where it's at.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what. What would be a more dominant person? She could out-dominate Nia.
Well, I personally, and this is just personal preference here, I think Asuka, even in loss at WrestleMania, is still the strongest female performer on the roster.
I agree.
That's just personal opinion. Now we could see what Ronda does as she improves. I think Ronda, which we're going to get to,
which I don't care, what anybody thinks. Ronda debuted beautifully.
Oh, absolutely! That was the best match of the show, as far as I was concerned. That the mixed tag match,
and then on Monday night she decided to destroy the left arm even more.
Yeah, she had a fantastic week. She had a fantastic weekend.
Yes,
Ronda far exceeded all expectations, and quite frankly, excuse me for just a moment. What? I came back from New Orleans with a cold.
Salute.
Thank you. It was a nice reminder that I'm not in New Orleans anymore. I don't really give two craps about the U.S. title match. I dislike Jinder Mahal so very much.
The question I have is, why Mahal? Why Jinder?
Because Vince has a freaking body fetish, and that's all that is. Vince sits there and he jacks off to. Sorry, that might have been a little un-PG, but Vince loves the body.
Speak the truth. Speak the truth.
Vince has the body fetish, and he is bound and determined to make Jinder a star. And he couldn't do it on the main event level, so now he's going to try on the mid-card level. I thought this was a complete waste of time. It was the wrong move. It was a complete troll job by WWE. They continue to just piss all over Rusev. They have gold here. They refuse to even try with the guy. This is Zack Ryder all over again. Zack Ryder got super hot in 2011. Vince McMahon was forced against his will to give this guy a bone. And then as soon as he got the U.S. title on him, Zack Ryder was promptly buried. He was turned into a complete joke. Rusev has been on fire with the crowd. The most popular chant, even more so than Daniel Bryan, was Rusev Day. All over New Orleans, all weekend long. Rusev was the talk of the town. That was the guy that everybody was excited about. You had a chance here to put a bow tie on Rusev Day and try to ride this momentum into something special. Not only did they not do that, they trashed it. They had Jinder Mahal pin the guy, the least deserving candidate in the match to win, beat the most deserving candidate. It was a complete and utter waste. I have nothing but hostility towards the company for this suctitude, this albatross of suck that is Jinder Mahal. I don't care if people like him. I know some do. I think this was absolute garbage.
Ryan?
I mean, I could sit here and say that Jinder Mahal would be the greatest U.S. champion in the world, but that would just make me the biggest liar. Everything he says about spot on. I'm just not going to be as angry about it because, I mean, you can see it coming from a mile away. Rusev he needs something, and they're not going to give it to him. They don't like to put over people that get over on their own, it feels like sometimes. Very rarely they'll go against that, like, with Daniel Bryan, but this time they just decided not to, and he's on to bigger and better things of being squashed by the Undertaker in Saudi Arabia. So.
And let me throw in a little bone here before I get the obvious response that I'm normally going to get.
But I haven't given my opinions yet, but I'll wait.
You give me just a second, because I think you can piggyback off of this point too. People are going to complain that, Rusev isn't being buried or anything. Buried is too strong a word. He's got merchandise. Let me explain something about how the wrestling business used to work.
Well, I mean,
you have somebody.
Hold on. He's not being buried right now, but he is going to be in a casket match, so he's about to be buried. Yeah. I'll step back from this one.
This is how the wrestling business used to work. When somebody made an organic connection with the fans, that guy got a rocket strapped to his ass. And the promoters would see how far they could go with them. It doesn't mean you put the world title on him the next day. but you start building that guy up. 1996, we brought this up earlier. Steve Austin gave his King of the Ring acceptance speech, and he coined Austin 316. Vince McMahon.
Do you remember what Austin 316 said?
I just whipped your ass.
Exactly.
Vince McMahon was smart enough in that era.
Wrong.
Wait a minute. Vince knew what he had. Vince did not rush it. Now, that's what a lot of people don't remember. Austin was not an immediate superstar after that promo. He wasn't even on the SummerSlam card.
But the thing about it is that WWF Magazine, the editor, I believe, was Russo at the time.
Vince Russo, that's correct.
Wanted to run a story about that, and Vince told him, no.
Now, it took a while for Vince to come around to that, but by the time you got to Survivor Series, when Austin is calling out Brett, Vince is not going to put Austin and Brett together unless he has plans for Austin. So by the fall, they were pretty clear that they had something with Austin. And then obviously, as they got through the winter of 97, it was clear that Austin was going to be a mega face. That's why they set up the double turn at WrestleMania. So it did take him a while. I will grant you that. But eventually, Vince capitalized on what was, at that time, an organic groundswell of support. After Austin gave the King of the Ring speech, you would see week to week, especially as Austin got more promo time, more and more Austin 316 signs showing up in the crowd. It was something the fans latched onto. And Vince, to his credit, after taking a while, okay, granted, Vince eventually did jump on board, and Austin, of course, rode that all the way into mega stardom. We're in 2018 now, okay? Things move at a much faster pace, and we've talked in the past about how we kind of loathe how fast things move in times. It's 2018. Rusev has been on fire for the last 5 months. He has been getting the loudest crowd response of any participant on the SmackDown roster. He's rivaling Daniel Bryan's responses in terms of chanting. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that people like him as much as they do Bryan, but he's at least in that ballpark. This guy has done absolutely nothing. He gets beat on the regular. He doesn't have anything meaningful to do. The 2 times that he faced Shinsuke Nakamura in the build-up to WrestleMania was the first time he had been on freaking television since the Rumble itself. Okay, he had nothing to do in the Rumble match. He was just kind of there. They have not taken advantage of this. At the very least, he should have been in the U.S. title picture from the start. Or better yet, why is Rusev and Aiden English not figuring into the tag team title picture? You know, why did we have to go with the New Day again? That was a great feud, but right, Rusev and Aiden English are right there. That was a perfect example of WWE just overlooking what they had, staring them in the face. It doesn't mean you put the world title on him immediately, but you do something with him. You don't leave him off TV for a freaking month with this guy getting Rusev Day chants in the middle of main event segments. I mean, it blows my mind. It makes me sick to my stomach to think that WWE is going to waste this guy. It's yet another example of the crowd telling WWE what they want, and WWE saying, screw you, we don't care what you want. You're going to get this instead. I hated this match. And Taker, we'll get your opinion on it now, because I am having just a massive headache even thinking
I can see.
It's just, I'm so pissed off.
I can see, because
Oh dear.
Rusev and Aiden English, but mainly Rusev, has taken so much chicken shit and turned it into gourmet chicken salad to where everybody is eating it and loving it, that I don't understand why he wasn't the one to win the title in the first damn place. We have gone from the Dolph Ziggler, Lana, Summer Rae, Rusev throwing the fish at Lana, bullshit, to the internet exposure of Lana being engaged to Rusev. And, why is Vince making him pay? The only thing I could put it to is the curtain call.
I don't know.
And Vince is one of those people, you fucked me over, well, I'm going to make you pay. You destroyed the kayfabe of the story, I'm going to make you pay. Vince is a petty son of a bitch at times. He has tried to bury Rusev on more than one occasion, and he has failed because the fans have latched on to Rusev. And I called it on my show Saturday that I believed Rusev was going to win. I had no, Jinder Mahal and the smart and the sting of his failed title run was still on my mind. And it's like, no, that's the wrong way to go. That is absolutely the wrong way to go. And what happened? Vince turned around and said, fuck you. You don't know what you want. I'm going to give you Jinder Mahal and stick it up your ass. Sorry. Unacceptable.
Well, and they doubled down on SmackDown by having Randy Orton become the number one contender for the U.S. title because we haven't seen that match enough. But
do we have to see that match again?
Yeah, it's going to Backlash. So,
which is a crock of shit. But the new match, the best match would have been Rusev Mahal, and Rusev taking it.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that's wrong with that U.S. title picture right now. Bobby Roode needed to turn heel, first of all. They should have done
Bobby Roode as a face is not working.
No.
Granted, he's got a nice, you know what I call Bobby Roode, right?
You'll have to enlighten the Ryan here. So,
a Ric Flair knockoff.
I can see it, especially with the robe. So
exactly. That's why, from the moment that he came into NXT, I'm like, boy, he's trying to knock off on Ric Flair.
Yeah.
And then they made it even bigger thing with the Robe Warriors on the Mixed Match Challenge with him and Charlotte.
That was a very deliberate pairing from that very perspective, I think. Well,
it was ridiculous, but
it is what it is. I mean, at this point, it's just frustrating. I think there's so much that they could be doing that they're not doing, and we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But I'm not looking forward to it at all.
But the thing about it is, we as fans see a lot more than management, but yet again, they might see it, but they don't want to give it to us either.
Well, you know what? I think it's the knee-jerk reaction. Anytime a fan talks about this, they're like, well, you're just a fan. You don't know any better. And I'm like, at a certain point, fans have enough experience. No, we're not going to know the inner workings of the business, but we have an appreciation for what works and what doesn't work.
Okay, I'm going to say it now. As being the oldest member of this panel, if anybody would understand the business, I would.
Well,
having watched wrestling for over 47 years, been a fan of, you saw my top 10 favorite list.
Yes, I did.
And it was mainly what? Old AWA guys that steered my viewing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so
Ryan Cyo would be surprised to see what it was.
I would imagine Ryan would probably not even know all the names on the list. To be completely honest with you,
it's a possibility.
But I can give you those names, Ryan, real quick if you wish.
I got the list here. I'm going to send it to him on Facebook here shortly. But
go ahead and send it to him, and he's going to be like, "Who the F is this?"
It's definitely an old school list.
Jesus. I am one of the biggest marks for Undertaker, and he didn't make the list.
Yeah, it's in the very name. You would think that that would be a top 10 list, but beyond the top 10 list, it's not. But look, it's just we have a perspective that comes from watching wrestling all our lives. Everybody in here is a lifelong fan, and we came of age. I came of age, especially in the late '80s, early '90s. Ryan, a little bit younger than I am, so he kind of came in really the mid '90s. The Attitude Era was kind of his big entrance into it, and of course, Taker, you've been going at this for a lot longer than we have. You
Yeah,
remember the AWA?
my first live match was 1974.
Yeah, we weren't even born yet, so you've definitely got us.
Seeing the original Texas Outlaws
Yes, Dick Murdoch and Dusty Rhodes, one of the greatest tag teams ever, by
versus
the way.
Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher.
Also very popular, very good choice. But it's just I hate it when people say, "Well, you're just a fan, you don't know any better." At a certain point, we kind of get an appreciation for what works and what doesn't. But beyond that, there's the seminal argument that everyone always overlooks. Mm-hmm. Fans are the customer. The fans are the customer. You are not just doing. The fans are going to drive the discussion at the end of the day, because this is a product that the fans have to want to buy. It's the same reason that I've been on the case of Roman Reigns for the last 2-3 years now. It's not that I hate Roman Reigns. I think Roman Reigns has excellent potential to be one of the top heels in the company. He's got that natural swagger and confidence that makes a good heel. And he was great at it in NXT. Okay, it's not a matter of me hating Roman Reigns. I just loathe the people that just blindly defend the guy as if, it's their responsibility to be a blind apologist for Roman Reigns. They say, well, he drives, the kids, or he has a lot of popularity among the kids, or the crowds are split. 50% of the crowd can love Roman Reigns. But what about the other 50%? Do they not count? Do the other 50% that don't want Roman Reigns in that role, or they just chop liver? I mean, it's like you can't overlook the fact, even if half the crowd likes the guy, half the crowd doesn't. That's half your audience, at best, that doesn't like this guy in the role that he's in. It's like the company used to ride the bright stars. They used to get it right on occasion. Now it feels like WWE is more prone to get it wrong than they are get it right, and that is not good. It's a microcosm. This U.S. title match is a microcosm of the problems with this company. They do not have the pulse of the fans anymore. They've lost that. They have lost that connection, and it makes main roster programming backwards, because as a fan, and particularly for us as longtime fans, we are now conditioned in 2018 to believe that no matter what happens on television, no matter how hot an angle may be, if it's on the main roster, there's a better than 50% chance that WWE is going to fuck it up.
Exactly.
That is the greatest sin of the main roster right now.
I mean, Jesus, they done screwed up Roman Reigns more than once.
I don't even know where to go on Roman after that, and we'll get to the main event here shortly. But
like I said, I got something in common with them, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, let's just get off of this U.S. title match. I'm too pissed off to even think about it anymore. It was
a clusterfuck of a match, and the wrong guy won.
Yes, we'll leave it at that. Let's move on to brighter pasture here. A match that was about the opposite of the U.S. title match in every possible way. The mixed tag match, Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey defeating Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. This was by far the most fun match in person. One of the best matches of the night, and definitely one of the biggest surprises. Ronda, absolute fantastic performance as a debut. She looked infinitely better than I think everyone thought she would. Stephanie McMahon, masterclass in being a heel. Really,
selling the you can't get my arm in an arm bar. I'm not going to let you. selling the block more than going, no, no, no. Knowing the minute it was locked in, she was done.
Yeah, she did more for Ronda than I think anyone else could have. That wasn't a popular opinion going in. There was a lot of people that were angry that Stephanie McMahon had shoehorned her way into this match. But I think if you look at this match on the surface and look at what Stephanie McMahon actually did for Ronda, this is the first time, really, since Stephanie McMahon came back as a full-time performer with the Authority angle, where Stephanie has truly gotten her comeuppance.
Yeah, and I will say this. This is also the first time that Stephanie, over her entire career, has actually let a talent go over her.
Yeah, this was absolutely a star-making performance for Ronda. And she was already bringing a star with her, I think. I mean, she had the mainstream appeal, but there was a very real possibility that the crowds could have turned on Ronda because she is not the most polished speaker, and she definitely has almost this naive quality about her. And Ryan, you brought this up, I think, gosh, I'm not sure if it was on the car ride home or if it was actually in the building, but she has this look where she's just so happy to be there that there's almost a certain naivety about her. But, you know, when she got in there, Stephanie McMahon has proven to be the perfect foil for her because it's somebody the fans want to see the crap kicked out of for all that Stephanie has done towards them, all the verbal abuse, all of the, you know, snark over the last 5 or 6 years. Ronda could have had a significant backlash against her, but instead, the crowd has really gravitated towards her because they knew in Ronda they had an opportunity to see Stephanie get her just desserts. And my God, did she get her just desserts at WrestleMania?
Ryan?
Yeah, it's about what he said. I was talking with him. I'm pretty sure it was in the car ride. Her enthusiasm is just infectious. You can tell that she enjoys the business. I mean, at least that's the impression I get when I watch her. Seeing Stephanie finally get it was great. And honestly, you look at the match on paper, you've got two wrestlers with Kurt Angle and Triple H who don't really wrestle a lot anymore. And then you've got a brand new wrestler and a non-wrestler. And somehow they made that into one of the best matches of the night. It blows my mind. I think it helps that Ronda brings that aura of legitimacy about it. You know that she can just tear you apart if she wants to, and it was great to see her go at Triple H. That was something I didn't expect to have happen, and I'm glad that it did. It needed to.
Yes, I that was one of the high points of the match for me.
That and the way the match started with them doing everything they could to keep Ronda out of it.
It made
as
you want her in
soon
there.
as she got tagged in, she went straight across the ring and pulled Stephanie in. That was perfect.
They built to that hot tag beautifully. Absolutely.
It was so well done. They protected Ronda the way they needed to because she's going to need more polish to be a better wrestler. But it was just done the best they could have done, and it paid off.
One of the things I liked about that match is when it came to the end, when it came to the finish, Stephanie had her fingers locked over Ronda's shoulder.
Yes.
And Ronda was talking to her and saying, "Do you think that's going to stop me?" And all of a sudden you see Ronda lift her shoulder up and break the hold. She turns to say, "Now get ready to feel some pain." And locked it in.
Yes.
And Stephanie almost immediately was tapping. I was like, finally, the C ending with T bitch got what she has deserved for years.
It was the perfect way. It was nuanced storytelling. And that is something that not everybody picks up.
Oh, I picked it up. I picked it up right away, and I even talked about it on the live stream I had during the show. This was nuanced telling. This was storytelling that is lost on a lot of people.
Yeah, it's not
things.
even the main, even some people that have been on the main roster for a decade don't have the eye for detail like that. I love this match. I love that spot. Ronda looked far better than she had any right to, and she's only going to get better. She has got so much in front of her. It's incredible.
Yes, she is, and she is going to be one of the more dominant women on the Raw roster if she stays with Raw. And I'll guarantee you this, within 2 years, she will have the title, the women's title on Raw, and there will be no one that could hold a candle to her ass.
I think it's very fitting that they teamed her with Kurt Angle because I think she is going to very much follow his trajectory. Comes in as a non-wrestler, has that athletic background, picks it up faster than they have any right to, and they're just going to hit it and take off with it.
Exactly. I see this. Yeah. I see the whole Kurt Angle story starting over with Ronda. If they hold to it.
And that's a big if. We just got done lambasting WWE's ability to do long-term storytelling. But I think
I don't think it would be wise to put it with Charlotte or Asuka at 35. Wait till 36.
You think she needs a little bit more time to kind of get in the groove of things?
Because Angle didn't make his debut until at Mania until 2 years after he was on the main roster. Follow that same trajectory.
Well, there is a match that you can do next year that would possibly, now again, this requires a little bit of TLC from the creative team. There is a match you can do.
You're asking for a miracle.
Well, I mean, this is what fan booking is, really. It's doing what should happen and what's not going to happen. But
exactly,
there is a match that WWE can do that, if you built it up properly, could main event WrestleMania. Now, I think that the odds of this main eventing WrestleMania were higher 2 years ago than they are now. But one match that WWE has not really run with yet, and it's kind of it's the female counterpart to the Shield Triple Threat at WrestleMania, which I also think is one day going to main event a WrestleMania. A fatal four-way with the Horsewomen.
Which one?
Have that. You still have that card.
You talking about the Horsewomen of MMA?
Of NXT. No. Bayley, Sasha, Charlotte, Becky. Those four on the main roster at WrestleMania that you could potentially, if you book all four properly.
What's the payoff in the end?
Well, here's the deal. If you are eventually building to Charlotte and Ronda at WrestleMania 36, Charlotte comes out of that match as the undisputed best of the Horsewomen, which I already think she is, quite frankly. I think Charlotte is the best of the four.
Okay.
But if you want to tell the story, which of the four is the best? Now, again, we're talking fantasy booking here. You have to spend the next year getting all four women in a position to where this match actually has stakes. If you just put all four in the ring together right now, there's no story to this because nobody is going to take Becky Lynch or Bayley, I think, serious in the role. I really don't. But they have the talent where you could take them serious if you treat them serious. If you give them something serious to do. Now, I think Bayley and Sasha, their feud this summer is going to do a lot to rehab Sasha and Bayley on the Raw side of things, because I think that's where they're going to stay. I think they're going to be staying on Raw myself. If you give them that feud, that'll help them. That's going to improve their stature in the fans' eyes. If you can get behind Becky and give her something meaningful to do, whether that's challenging for a title, whether that's giving her her own storyline, maybe give her a storyline with Charlotte. Let them two go at it while Sasha and Bayley are doing their thing on the other brand. These four women have immense talent. And all four women are people that the crowd wants to see succeed. They have that in them. Okay, just because Bayley has not gotten over on the main roster like she was in NXT doesn't mean that the fan support won't be there for her. Just because Sasha has been wasted the last year doesn't mean the fans aren't still going to want to support her. Becky Lynch has got a groundswell of natural support on SmackDown right now as it is. You know, there's a reason that her elimination got booed so loudly in the Superdome. Fans want to cheer for Becky Lynch. And we all know what Charlotte can do. We know the quality of competitor that Charlotte is. These four women, if you treat them right, if you book them right, you can still get that fatal four-way match with the NXT Horsewomen. And I think it could be a very big deal at WrestleMania. And that could be a bridge to getting Charlotte right into the trajectory that you need her to be at to main event a show against Ronda Rousey.
And that I'll tell you what. Okay, based on what you're saying, and yeah, I stepped away for a minute or two. Based on what you're saying, that would be a main event for SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and Mania. Have it be a 3-match story. For the simple fact that, let's say the first time Ronda loses to Charlotte, Charlotte gets a cocky attitude. Oh, you're too new. You're too green. You know, you can't hold a candle to my ass. The second match, Ronda catches her in an armbar and basically dislocates her shoulder and puts Charlotte out until 36. Kind of like the Brock Lesnar destroying Triple H's arm with the Kimura lock.
Yes.
You do something along those lines. And at WrestleMania is the final payoff. But by this time, Charlotte has a title. And you have Charlotte put over Ronda, where Ronda tears her arm up a second time. And the title goes on Ronda. It would look legit as hell.
Well, let me pose this
because at this point, Ronda is playing on a weak point in Charlotte, and Charlotte has no defense to protect that arm from Ronda tearing it out of socket for a second time.
Well, there's something to be said, especially if we're looking at a series of matches that's going to get very personal when we're talking about like injury angles being thrown into the mix here. There's a little wrinkle that I want to throw into this, and I'll get your opinion. And Ryan, you can jump in on this too. If we're looking at WrestleMania 36 as the end game for a Ronda Rousey Charlotte feud, Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania 34 or WrestleMania 36, excuse me, will be 33, 34 years old. Charlotte will be 34 to 35. Women do not typically have as long a career as their male counterparts in wrestling. What if, and again, too, you got Ronda as kind of a mainstream star coming in. There's no telling. Maybe she goes back to UFC or maybe she goes off to do movies or whatever. What if you threw in a loser leave WWE stipulation? What if that was the end result of the WrestleMania 36 main event between the two? The WWE is not big enough for the both of them. It's a personal rivalry. You're talking about something on the level of a Ciampa Gargano on the main roster here. Charlotte and Ronda are just tearing at each other. Third match, final match, the rubber match. This is it. Whoever loses is gone. What are your thoughts on adding that stipulation into the mix here?
It would be interesting to me if they could do that and actually stick with it. But honestly, I don't see them waiting to 36 for that. I don't have enough faith in this company and their long-term booking, especially in the women's division. I could honestly see them have Rousey go for the rest of the year without losing. And that could have been a reason why they wanted to get rid of Asuka's streak, because they didn't have two people doing that. I could see them going all the way to 35 and then have Charlotte come in and go up against Rousey because Charlotte is the conqueror of streaks and have them go at it at 35. I feel like that's probably what they might try and go with because, again, I don't put enough faith in this company to think that far ahead.
I agree with you to a point, Ryan. But here's the thing. WWE has done the long-term booking before.
That's true.
Let's say Charlotte at 35 wins the Raw title. Okay.
Okay.
That sets up the battle between her and Ronda.
Right.
Ronda wants the title more than anything else. She wants to add that to her collection, being that she was the first UFC, was it bantamweight, I believe?
Yeah, women's bantamweight champion.
Women's bantamweight champion in UFC. The only one, really, that of any significance. Because since Ronda lost it, it's changed titles twice.
That was like 2 straight champions lost in their first title defense.
Exactly. So, what? Ronda held her for what? Almost 18 months, 19 months before she lost to Holly Holm?
Yeah, it was almost a 2-year run for Ronda.
Right. And that was legit fighting.
Yeah.
Have them go back and forth with a title. Let's say Charlotte wins the title. At the pay-per-view next, Ronda has worked her way into the number 1 spot and defeats Charlotte. They go into the next pay-per-view after that. Charlotte figures out a way to win. The loser leaves at WWE is not going to happen. You're not going to see those matches really anymore. Unfortunately, because those are some of the best matches you'll ever see.
Yeah.
I.e. Gargano Ciampa.
Right.
Going a little further back, Ziggler and Miz, when they had that feud, that was a great match.
Let's go back to Dick the Bruiser versus Baron von Raschke for the AW date in the AWA.
Yeah, the loser leaves town matches. You have to have a certain level of fan investment in the feud to make those.
And I don't think the fans today will be that invested in it. To be perfectly honest,
they've broke it so many times
because there is nowhere else for the other person to really go.
No.
Yeah.
Are you going to go? Yeah. Are you going to go to ROH? Are you going to go to TNA? Are you going to go to Japan? There isn't anything really left anymore. The loser leaves. The promotion is a moot point now, which is sad, in my opinion.
The only way it works is if there's any type of rumor about one or both of them retiring or moving on.
Exactly.
It's the only way it would work. You're not.
And I don't see either one of them retiring at 36. I don't.
I want to clarify something. Just because I don't think they're going to hold off onto 36 for this match to happen in this, like the way y'all are talking about it, that doesn't mean that's not how I want it to happen. I want it to be the way y'all are describing. That would be the most entertaining thing they could do.
That's a 2-year story.
Right. And that would be great to have. But for some reason, I just don't see them wanting to wait 2 years. I don't know if they're worried that Ronda's appeal is going to fall off in that time period.
I will tell you, it won't.
It won't.
Because Ronda is a legit athlete that can tear your ass the fuck up.
It's more of the mainstream appeal that I think they're going to be worried that they'll lose. Because everybody was talking about Ronda showing up. And as time goes on, that conversation is going to start dropping more and more out, and they're going to start losing some of those eyes that they were pulling into the product with her coming in. That's what I feel like they're going to be worried about.
They're going to ride Ronda for the next 12 to 18 months.
Right.
She is going to move the needle, kind of like let's put it this way, and people are going to hate this comparison. The U.S. Open golf tournament, the Masters golf tournament, had some of the highest ratings it's had in 5 years. Why? Tiger Woods.
Yeah, name value.
So here's the
Ronda Rousey is the Tiger Woods of WWE right now.
Right.
She is going to move the needle so much more than John Cena, more than The Undertaker. They would be stupid to let that get away. But it takes proper booking to do it right. Uh-oh.
I don't know if the last thing I said even come through. I heard him say, "Uh oh," yeah, that's when I dropped out.